So a couple examples. So we'll just run through these quickly. So let's use this program and your situation financially again. So here's an example. So let's define the problem. I'm broke, I don't know how to make money, I want to be a millionaire. Well, let's locate the information. YouTube, books, online education, or millionaires speaking about experiences. Seeking, well, let's actually register for this Imperium Academy program. Receiving, watching the videos, which is what you're doing right now. Processing, once again, you should be doing this right now. Taking notes, actively listening, having aha moments. Understand, having aha moments, piecing it together and getting it. So like, if I say to you, these are the 12 steps to apply critical information, do you understand them? Like, does this make sense? Is this going in? You know, and then judging, like, are you accepting the information as valid, bypassing your ego, not rejecting it? So like, you know, sometimes there's going to be information that like, for example, let's say I've never done what you want to do before and I start giving you information on how to do it. You should probably not judge that as, you know, as necessarily critical. It's probably not accurate. And the same thing would be true if I had like a personal incentive. Like, you know, it's like if I told you, like if you ask a barber if you need a haircut, he's always going to say yes, because he's got an incentive. Even if you don't need a haircut, he might say, yeah, I think you do. And like, it's up to you to judge whether that's critical. But anyway, that's a whole rabbit hole. Then decision. So you make the decision to become successful. You make the decision to take action. You make the decision to listen to me. You make the decision to do what I tell you to do. And then the action. You know, doing the action items I don't like videos. It might take 6 to 12 months of consistent application and sticking to one niche and sticking to one problem. Then change, you're going to start making money. You're going to start getting clients and getting paid. And then the feedback, you know, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have blind spots. You're going to have to rewatch videos. Like this video, for example, like I would rewatch this video like every month. I would redo the foundational modules and the mindset modules in this program like every few months, because you're going to forget stuff and you're going to let go of stuff. And then we've obviously got easy grow as another example. So let's say that you use this program to start making some money online and you have a couple of clients, but you can't grow. Well, then you're going to like, you know, you've got this problem. Like my business isn't growing. I've got to, you know, a couple of $1,000s a month, or I've got to $10,000 a month, or I've got to $20,000 a month, but I'm plateaued and I need more information to, you know, take me to the next level in terms of my client acquisition systems. Because I don't want you to worry about easy grow right now because you don't need it. Like you haven't even got any clients yet. So why are you concerning yourself with like figuring out how to get more? Like for now, let's just stay focused. But you know, this will happen to you if you apply this information. So the location, you know, then you seek the information by booking a call. You receive the information by watching the videos, attending the Q&As, you know, all these things. And then the process, understanding, you judge the information from easy grow, you decide to do something about it, you start building the systems for the actions. Might take you 3 to 6 months of consistency, and then you'll change. You know, you might 10x your clients, or maybe you get, you know, to 20K a month or 100K a month. Like, I mean, we've done a lot of, like, we've had a lot of people go through this thing and, you know, achieve some pretty obscene change in a short period of time. And then, you know, the feedback might be that you need a better circle, you join them out, I don't know. But you get the point, these are just some examples. So here is a concise and rather articulate summary of this entire idea. In summary, information packages reality into understandable meaning. It is how reality presents itself to us. It manifests as a sensory experience, usually as an image or as a statement articulated verbally or numerically. It illuminates the objective nature of a fragment of reality. After being received, it's processed by the brain, judged, then used as a tool for prudent decision-making to produce physical action in the body that acts as a cause to a desired effect, which is typically to solve a problem that is blocking progress to a desired outcome. It is critical insofar as it is accurate, true, and effective. Simply put, critical information allows us to mobilize reality and send it into battle. Okay, that is what we're dealing with here. And I hope that felt like a little bit of a mic drop moment, because I kid you not, that definition and this understanding took me about 5 days of thinking and work to come to grips with. So I hope that this definition and I hope that this information here is really helping you and shedding some light. So I hope that this definition and I hope that this information here is really helping you and shedding some light. So now let's talk about like what this actually looks like. And by the way, one important thing to note here before we actually get into consulting is the term here at the end, accuracy, true and effectiveness. Like information is information, but critical information, remember, is information that actually solves the problem. And you know, there's an abundance of information out there, but very few pieces of information are actually critical and actually can cause the effect you want them to cause. And a lot of pieces of information that seem right and seem true will actually do the opposite of what you want them to do. Okay, so you know, just bear in mind that as you go through and seek information, like it's only critical. Like not all information is critical. It's only critical if it works, and it only works if it's accurate, true, and effective. So let's now explain this business model. Because consulting is basically the business model that this program teaches you to start. So I need to define what a consultant, I need to help you understand what the hell this thing is, right? So consulting, that's the business model this program teaches you to start. Consultant, that's what you're going to become. Now, when I say consultant, most people think of some dude in his late 40s in a glass box in London, like in an office, wearing a grey suit with a binder of graphs and corporate speak. That is not what a consultant is or has to be. A consultant is someone who provides or executes on critical information that solves a painful problem for a specific group of people, also known as a niche. And I'll repeat this. A consultant is someone who provides or executes on critical information that solves a painful problem for a specific group of people, aka a niche. So your job as a consultant is literally to like find a group of people, like a niche, find a problem that they have that they suffer with that causes them a lot of pain, and then go and find the critical information apply that to the problem to derive a solution, and that's how we make money. Okay, that's the job of a consultant. Now, there are 3 models to make money consulting online. So there's really 3 ways that this sort of chain of events can manifest, really. The first one is done for you. And a done for you consulting model is where you apply the critical information. So you go and find the information, and then you go to someone that has the problem and you say, hey, I've got this solution, I will do it for you. Okay? And here you execute on the critical information on behalf of the client for them to execute on, right? Well, we actually need that. So examples: marketing agency, recruiting agency, personal branding agency, any sort of agency. Like, any time that you do any sort of business that does something for someone else is a done for you agency, at least in this consulting space. Okay? Then we've got done with you, or DWY. And this is where both you and the client apply the critical information together. So once again, you go and find the critical information, but maybe you work with the person, so that you're still responsible to do the work, and so are they. So, the difference between done for you, done with you, and do it yourself, which I'll explain in a second, is basically who's doing the work. Is it you doing the work? Is it both of you doing the work? Or is it the client doing the work? Okay? So done with you. So here you execute on and communicate critical information on behalf of and to the client. So for example, personal training, any form of one-to-one coaching, done for you marketing with sales coaching. So any business model that revolves around you working with the person, where you're doing the work with the person, is done with you. So for example, say you have a marketing agency, but you also have a coaching element where you teach your clients how to sell the lead that you get them in. Or let's say that you're a therapist, right? And you're sat down talking to people, working through their problems with them, right? That's done with you. That's done with you. So it's when it's a combination of done for you and do it yourself. DIY, or do it yourself, is basically where the client applies the critical information that you've taught them. So what our relationship that you and I have right now is DIY. That means I've found the information, I've put it into a program for you, and you're going to do the work. So I've done the work to find it, but you're going to do the work to apply it, okay? So here you just communicate the critical information to the client for them to execute on. Okay, you could argue that personal training is DIY, but not really, because you have to be there, right? So examples: this program, Easy Grow. If you're a personal trainer, and let's say that you make a course or a program that you sell that teaches a specific type of person how to do a specific type of exercise or a specific nutrition program, and you create a fitness course. Well, now you've gone from done with you to actually do it yourself. Any course ever. Like if you buy a book, it's do it yourself. Like you're receiving critical information, but you're still doing it yourself. Okay, so these are the 3 models that we can apply to make money consulting online. Now, the chances are, for pretty much every single one of you, you're going to start with either done for you or done with you. DIY is a rite of passage, and this is something that you are working towards and that you won't qualify for yet, and I'll explain why as we go through now. So all 3 of these models, they vary slightly in structure, but the underlying principle of the business remains the same. You are providing critical information to solve a painful problem to create value. You're applying it, right? Or they are. The only real difference is the distribution of work as to who actually applies the information. So the question is, well, which model should you pick? Right? Well, we're not going to concern ourselves too much with this right now, because we're not going to pick your business model until we've gone through the niche and the problem and everything. But in later videos, we'll select your niche and your model and everything. So don't worry. For now, I just want you to understand them. So who are these models for? Right? Because this is going to set your expectation as to what you're likely to pick. So done for you is for people who are total beginners with no experience in a niche, where they can deliver value by doing the work for clients. Okay? So the chances are, most of you are going to start with done for you, where you find a problem and the solution is going to be, I will actually do this for them. Done with you is also for people who are total beginners with no experience in a niche, but they can only deliver value by working with the client one-to-one. Right? So pretty much every single beginner should start with one of these 2 models, but whether you do done for you or done with you will depend on the nature of the problem and whether or not it can be solved with or without the client. Because some problems that your clients in your market have and that your niche have, like they need to be present for to solve. Okay? Like for example, if they're out of shape and you're a personal trainer, like you're doing your consulting, right? You have the critical information. Like if that person's not in the gym with you, then they're not going to, applying the information doesn't really mean anything. Now, DIY, do it yourself. This is for people who have successfully got the result for 15 plus clients in a niche as done for you or done with you consultant. So this is the rule, okay? So DIY should be what you're aiming for, right? It's really actually called the info model, which is basically where obviously you're selling information with done for you or done with you, but if I ever refer to like info biz, I'm talking about like a course or a high ticket course. But basically the rule of thumb here is once you've successfully accomplished and solved the problem for 15 clients as a done with you consultant or a done for you consultant, then you can switch to DIY. So until you've successfully serviced 15 clients, and I mean success, I don't just mean get 15 clients. I mean get 15 clients and actually get them the result, like help them achieve the transformation they want to achieve. Until you've done that, DIY is not for you. But there is one exception I'll explain in a second. So for example, if you service 15 agency or one-to-one coaching clients in one niche with the same problem solved every time, well then you qualify for DIY, which is great news because DIY is the best place to be. Now, the other time you qualify for DIY is if you've already solved the problem for yourself. This is a very important thing. So if you want to start a like a course business where the client does the, if you want to start a like a course business where the client does the work and you teach them, the first thing is you can only do that if you've already done it for 15 people. But the other time that makes sense and that you can do it if you haven't had clients before is if you've done it yourself. And that's it. So for example, if you're already a successful property investor and you want to turn your personal expertise into a product, then it makes sense. So like for example, I had my first business as a marketing agency, Northflow Consulting, marketing agency for gyms, right? We were doing 100K a month, and I built an agency. What I then did is I transitioned to Imperium acquisition, or Imperium agency, where I helped people start marketing agencies and get to 100K a month. Now, I hadn't helped 15 agencies get to 100K a month, but what I had done is I'd already done it for myself, right? So let's say, for example, that you want to help property investors, like the example here, you want to help property investors find the right deals. And let's say that you've been doing this yourself for, I don't know, the last 3 years, and you've successfully sourced yourself dozens or hundreds of property deals that have been profitable. Well, you qualify immediately for do it yourself because, well, you've done it, right? You've done it for yourself. But if you haven't done it for yourself, you have to have done it for 15 people successfully. And if you haven't done it for 15 people successfully, then you have to have done it yourself. So this is kind of like why the personal training one's a good example, because if you're a 45-year-old man and you're a busy professional, and let's say that you're in incredible shape and your passion is fitness and you want to turn your passion for fitness into a business, well, you can skip the line and you can go straight to DIY because you've already done it. You can go straight to it and you can prove that. So I'm telling you now, the end goal for any consultant should be DIY. This should be what you aim for. Now, I don't want to confuse you by having you look too far down the line here because that's not what we're trying to do. For now, we're just going to focus on the foundations, the fundamentals, the mindset. But I want to set the expectation now that years from now, a year or 2 or 3 years from now, you should look to transition to DIY. That should be the goal. 99% of you should be aiming for DIY. That should be your goal. Done for you and done with you are simply springboards to, to DIY. I'm going to put this in blue, otherwise it's going to annoy me, so let's just do that. So DIY, or do it yourself, revolves around selling a high-ticket course. High ticket means you're charging thousands of dollars for access to the critical information required to get the result. And this can sometimes be tens of thousands of dollars. So for example, I have Easy Grow, which is a high-ticket program, which means that it costs more than that. Well, I won't give you a specific price here because it doesn't concern you right now, but it's not cheap. Right? It's not just like $1,000. It's quite expensive because it's a good bloody program. It solves a lot of problems. So high ticket means you're charging thousands of dollars for access to the critical information required to get the result, and it can be tens of thousands of dollars. So DIY is by far the most efficient way to become a millionaire and make 100K a month. I've never seen in my life, be short 26 years, 27 years on this planet, I've never seen a more effective or efficient way to make money, to build a ridiculously profitable lifestyle business or an empire with no risk, just by using your brain. Like it's bloody amazing. So if you're trying to make 100K a month, like doing this with done for you or done with you is extremely difficult unless you have extremely high prices. Even then, there's little to no leverage in done for you or done with you. Because trust me, I've tried it. I had a done for you marketing agency doing 100K a month. I had like 60 done for you clients. That's 60 headaches. Done for you and done with you, you can get to 40, 50K a month with them. Like you can, and that's fine. But going beyond that, unless you have a ridiculously high ticket price, you should just transition to DIY as soon as you can. And I know that 100K a month for you is just going to seem absolutely ridiculous right now. I'm aware of that. And I know that you're like, that's just not possible. But trust me, stick to this for a couple of years and I'm telling you, it'll work. So done for you and done with you are absolutely amazing models for beginners who are just starting out. They honestly, like, they really are. It's like you shouldn't look for DIY unless you've already done it yourself. But the second that you become competent enough to be considered an expert, which is, these qualification parameters here, which is 15 successful clients or having done it yourself, then it's time to switch to DIY. So the pros and cons. I thought I'd just give you like a good example here of the high ticket course DIY model, because there's a lot of pros and very few cons. The cons is that you have to build a fucking course. Trust me. I mean, anyone that's done this will know what I'm talking about. Like building a course, it is very difficult. You're not, like I said, this is for like you in like 18 months, 2 years from now. I don't want you to even think about this right now. Maybe like a year from now. We're not gonna worry about it. But I'm setting your expectation as to what's coming, right? Because I'm by hell or high water, if you listen to me and you do what I'm telling you to do, you're gonna get 10K a month. You get 20K a month, 30K a month, you will. By Easy Grow, you'll get in there, you'll scale up, you'll crush it. But the end of the road is building a course, okay? And then you also need to be an expert to start. But DIY, it's more profitable, it's more scalable, it's more fun, clients get better results, you have less stress, it's more systemized, it's repeatable, there's less reliance on you, it's more consistent, you don't need to hire any talent to deliver the value, you have better guarantees, you have to talk to clients, it's centralized support. Like, I mean, there's a ton of pros to DIY. So this is what you have to look forward to a few years from now. However, like starting a business is like driving a car at night. Okay, so what you're doing now is it's like driving a car at night. You should only concern yourself with what is right in front of you. And if you try to look miles down the road, you're going to crash and burn. So I don't want you to start building a course now or worrying about becoming an expert. For now, I just want you to pay attention to the next few videos and do the fundamentals, okay? So at the end of the day, if you get in your car at night, you have your destination, you have your goal, right? Which should obviously be like 10K a month or 5K a month, whatever you want. But the ultimate destination is going to be getting DIY. And I want you to have that goal in mind. And now just remember the goal's there, but don't even think about it anymore. Just don't even try and start worrying about how you're going to build a course and all this stuff, because trust me, you don't need to worry about it right now. If you're driving a car at night and you try and look miles down the road, you will crash and burn. I just want you to see this as a destination so you know where you're headed. And I call this Consulting Nirvana, which is a 4-phase course with I think like 25 or 26 videos, and it teaches that sort of A to Z process on how to go from done for you or done with you to DIY. So this is down the road. This is, like I said, a year or a few years from now. Now we can forget about it. Straight back to reality. We're getting back to the immediate moment. No more thinking about the future. Back to the next couple of weeks. Okay. So 6-figure roadmap. So what I want to do here now is sort of just round off this video. I know it's been a long one, but round off this video by giving you a macro to-do list of every major activity milestone you must complete to become a successful consultant. So I'm going to give you a list of everything that you need to do in order throughout this program to become a successful consultant. Like it's gonna bring so much clarity to you. And I'm just gonna give you some checkboxes like do this, then this, then this, then this, so it becomes very linear and very simple. So the road ahead is designed to bring some clarity to the next steps you're gonna be taking in your journey to getting your first few clients and actually making money with your business. And it's here, okay? So this will be available in the resources section below for you to download as a PDF. But this is the roadmap. This is like in order. This is exactly what you have to do to become a successful consultant. And I'm defining successful as someone who actually gets clients, actually gets results for their clients, and starts making 6 figures or a little bit more or a little bit less. So the first thing you have to do is understand the fundamentals. And understand the fundamentals is basically watching the first videos in this program and getting to grips with them. Then you have to pick a niche. So you have to find a group of people that you're interested in, that you want to serve, and pick a niche. And then you need to conduct niche research, which means you need to understand that niche, and you need to really get to grips with what they like and what problems they have. And then you're going to build a niche avatar, which is basically where you're going to I'm going to show you how to create a document that explains your niche and helps you understand what problems they have and all this stuff. So we research and then we make our research concrete. And then we're going to find the niche's problem. So we're actually going to define what damn problem do you want to solve with your business? Like, where are you going to alleviate this pain to create this value to make this money? And then we're going to validate the solution to the problem. So we're going to confirm that this problem can be solved and that it's possible to solve and we can find the information to solve it, which is important. And then once we validate the solution, we're going to create an offer. So we're going to package our solution into a compelling sales argument that we can put in front of the niche to indicate that we can solve the problem for them. Once we've done this, these are the sort of fundamentals of the business. This is the DNA of your business, so to speak. Then what we're going to do is some basic company setup. So we're just going to basically set you up so that you don't just look like some dude in the garage, basically, or a basement, or girl in the basement. Then we're going to fix your mindset. This is, honestly, I'm going to put a couple of exclamation marks next to this. This here is probably going to be the most important thing, the biggest point of leverage for you in this program. I know that mindset isn't sexy. I know that you're here because you want to get sales calls and make money. Trust me, like Karate Kid style, wax on, wax off stuff, you're going to think it's a waste of time. You're going to think it's useless. But once you've been through it and you've applied it, you're going to be able to block kicks and do all this cool karate stuff. So trust me, if you don't get the Karate Kid reference, I apologize for your childhood, but we're going to fix your mindset because trust me, there's going to be a lot to fix. And do not skip this. You know what? I'm going to say it 10 times. Do not skip this. 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 Do not skip the mindset training. Do not try to 2x speed it. Do not do it when you've got tabs open. Do not do it with your phone on your desk. This is the most important thing, and that's that. Well, the most important thing is your foundations, really, because without them, there's no point in mindset training. But if you can just about get through the first week for me and listen to me and do it properly, this thing, my goodness. And then we're going to become an expert. So I'm going to show you how to actually become an expert. I'm going to give you my framework for solving problems. I'm going to show you how to find the critical information. I'm going to show you how to judge that critical information. I'm going to show you how to apply it in more detail. I'm going to actually show you how to solve the problem and how to figure out how to actually add value in essence. Then we're going to learn sales fundamentals. So once you've got your foundations down, once you've got your business set up and you've got your mind in the right place and you know what you're talking about, then we're going to talk about how to communicate to people so you can actually start making money. Because if you know what to do and you've got the discipline to do it and you've got your company there but you don't talk to people, well, nothing's going to happen, right? So we're going to teach you the sales fundamentals, like the fundamentals of persuasive communication to actually start getting people to buy your thing. Then we're going to help you write a sales script so you can actually have a predictable way of interacting with humans to convince them to part with their money for this, in exchange for this expertise you have for this information. Then we're going to learn appointment fundamentals. So how to actually, what are the fundamentals of appointment booking? And basically the way that we're going to make money with our expertise here is we're going to create content or reach out to people in our niche, and we're going to book what is called a sales appointment. And a sales appointment is basically a scheduled conversation to discuss the problem and our solution to the problem and how we can be compensated financially for that. Then we're going to build the appointment system. So we're actually going to start building the systems out to predictably and reliably book these appointments. Then we're going to book sales calls, okay? Which is actually we're going to actually start getting calls on our calendar and the niche's calendar. And then we're going to conduct sales calls. So we're going to hop on Zoom when it comes around to the hour. And we're going to basically say to people okay, well, you should buy this thing. And then they're going to be like, why? And you need to have a damn good reason. And I'm going to walk you through all of that. So don't worry too much because it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to teach you how to conduct sales call. And then once you've done this, you're going to sign your first client. Now it can take you a lot of sales calls. It took me like 60 sales calls to sign my first client ever. So fortunate enough for you, you've got a lot of information about how to do this. So it might not take 60, but it's going to take you some doing. Like getting this first client. Trust me, when you do this, this will be the best feeling. This is better than anything I've ever experienced ever. Like with the exception of like a Five Guys burger every now and then. Maybe I don't know. There's some damn good burgers. I'm obviously joking. Signing my first client was the best experience of my life. Experience ever. Like with the exception of like a Five Guys burger every now and then, maybe, I don't know. There's some damn good burgers, but I'm obviously joking. Signing my first client was the best experience of my life, so we're gonna do that, and that'll be fun. And when this happens, I want you to, tell everyone about it in the community. Then you're gonna onboard your first client. I'm gonna give you an onboarding system to get them actually like on board. Onboarding is basically the word we use to explain like integrating someone into the business. So yeah, like actually starting to tee them up so we can act out the solution. And then we're gonna deliver results. So once we've got them onboarded, we're gonna basically start getting the results. And if you're doing done for you or done with you, we're gonna start applying this critical information for or with them. And then we're gonna repeat the 5 steps as much as possible. Right? So getting to the point where you get your first client is all about this. It's really about just these things. But then all your business becomes is about booking sales calls, conducting sales calls, signing clients, onboarding clients, and delivering results. All you have to do once you've got your foundation set is just repeat this system. And if you repeat it enough and enough, you'll start to get feedback. So you'll start to get feedback on like how you need to change your result delivery process. Like how you need to change the information you're giving people. Or maybe you need to change the way that you sign your clients, or change the expectations you set. Or maybe you need to change the way you book your sales calls or conduct your sales calls. I'm going to teach you how to listen to feedback and iterate, and change your business according to feedback from your client acquisition and client result delivery processes. And then we're going to build some operational systems, just some basic financial systems to keep track of the money you're making, because trust me, you're going to make it, so we need more of those. And then you're going to invest into EasyGrow and scale up. I know that I keep on plugging EasyGrow here, but obviously that's, I've candidly, I think I've explained this in the introduction video, like the intention I have here is to turn you into someone that can buy EasyGrow. Don't get me wrong, like I want you to succeed, and like I want you to go through the transformation that I went through, because I wish I had this information. I had this information when I was starting, but not in this detail, right? So I want the best for you, and I want you to become successful because I love you, because you were me, if that makes sense, or you are who I was, and I want to help facilitate that transformation because it means a lot to me, and I like to give back. But also, like I want you to do these things, and I want you to take these actions so that eventually you love me because I've helped you so much, and you come to me and you're like, all right, I'm going to buy EasyGrow now. I'm going to buy your program, Charlie. Like, I'll spend that money and I'll buy it, sure. And that's the step. If you do that, you can scale up, and then eventually maybe you'll run a mastermind. That's a pretty exclusive club, so we'll see about that. But anyway, that's the roadmap. So that's what we're going to be doing as we. Oh, what have I done here? Wait, let me just change this. Kind of broke it a little bit there, didn't I? Here we go. Okay. So yeah. So basically, these are the steps we're going to go through in this program. It should be nice and clear as to exactly what steps we're going to be taking. Like I said, this is an important point. Please do not concern yourself with writing a sales script yet, or like conducting your sales calls, or like, oh, how do I onboard clients, or like, oh, I need to build my financial spreadsheets. Like, we're doing this one step at a time. Trust me, I'm going to hold your hand through the whole thing. We're going to start with the fundamentals. We're going to build the understanding of that, which is kind of what we've just done in this video, a couple more videos as well. Then we're going to go through the step by step. It's going to be nice and slow, nice and steady. It's not going to be too slow, but it's going to be nice and straightforward. And we're going to do it step by step. I'm going to hold your hand. I just want to give you an idea as to exactly what order we're doing things in. And then you can have this roadmap checklist. In fact, I recommend you download it from the resources section. Have it in your desktop. Every time you've done one of these things, you just tick it off. And then this way, becoming successful and getting what you want just becomes about ticking boxes, which is pretty much the case anyway. So online consultants can make up to $3 million a month. Like, I make like $1 million a month right now. I'm sure that by the time you watch this, I might be doing $2 million a month or $3 million a month. I do like 10, 12 million a year at the moment. I know what to do to get to 20 and 30. So depending on when you watch this and come on board, chances are I'll already be there. But you can make up to $3 million a month, depending on your goal, your niche, your drive, your skills, your talents, and more. What you're seeing here, this thing here, this is just the roadmap to get to $1,000 to $10,000 a month. I promise you it's possible. I promise. If you just do what I tell you to do, and you perform the actions, I'm going to give you the causes. You don't really have to figure much out. I'm going to give you everything you need to do. All you have to do is just do it. Listen, pay attention, phone off desk, close your tabs, noise cancelling headphones on if you've got them, 1.25 times speed maximum on the videos, pay close attention, copious notes, listen to the videos time and time again, repeat them, take the actions, do it, stay consistent, stick to it, and it's possible. It just depends if you want it or not. If you just listen to me and do the work, it'll happen. And so this is the transformation I've made. So I've gone from making $1,000 a month. Actually, it was less than this. When I was doing my apprenticeship, I was making about $4 an hour. Like in the UK, if you're a business and you have an apprentice, you can pay them £3.50 an hour. And you best believe that's what my boss paid me, although I had some sales commission. But I was making about $1,000 a month working in an apprenticeship, doing cold calling, And I was pretty unhappy with my life. And 7 years has elapsed, and I'm now making more than $1 million a month, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm leading an industry, and I'm having the best time. I love my life. I've got this beautiful home, I've got a wonderful group of friends, like I'm good, everything's good, right? And so I've gone from everything being bad to everything being good, and I've gone from $1,000 a month to $1 million a month. Like I've 1,000x my income, and all I've done to do that is find and apply critical information. All it's been is this. Just, there's a problem. Okay, what critical information do I need to solve it? Find the information, come back, apply the information to the problem, break the problem. With time, it'll clear up. Oh, there's another problem. Oh, there's another problem, another one. It's like damn, like problems in business are like whack-a-mole. There's a problem, you whack it, you whack the mole down, and then another one comes up. And then you whack that one, another one comes up, and you whack that one. And eventually the problem you have is you're making so much money and paying so much in tax that you have to start moving to Dubai. And the problem you have is that, you can't, like the problem I've got right now is, like, in order for me to grow, easy grow, and my mastermind, my business, I have to create this program so I can grow the damn market. Like, it never stops. The problem never stops. But let's get to 10K a month first, right? So let's round this off. I know it's been a long one. We're gonna round it off with the quadrant. So there are only 4 things that matter in your consulting business, right? And I'm gonna put this, let's just do this. The 4 things that matter. There are only 4 things that matter in your consulting business. If you ever catch yourself working on anything but one of these 4 things, then you're wasting your time and doing the wrong thing. So the first thing is solid foundations and mindset. So we have these 4 quadrants here. And if you're not, like if in your business, you're going to be tempted to do a lot of crap. If you're not doing something that's one of these 4 things, you're wasting your time, okay? So the first thing that is important, that you have to do and have to get right, is solid foundations and mindset. So this means nailing your understanding of business fundamentals, which is like remembering the stuff from this lesson and applying the stuff from this lesson and lessons to come on fundamentals. The second part of solid foundations and mindset is actually getting your business foundations right. So picking a good niche, finding a solid problem, crafting a great offer, and developing expertise. So the foundations of your business is niche, problem, solution, offer, and expertise. But we'll get into that in more detail. Solid foundations and mindset. So nailing your understanding of mindset. So fixing your belief systems, fixing your identity, fixing your paradigms. This is all going to come across to you as like weird, woo-wah, like what the hell, I don't need that, I don't know what that means. But trust me, like I said, the mindset stuff, don't skip it, we'll get into that. The next thing that's important is booking sales appointments. So consistently reaching out to people in your niche with your offer to encourage them to schedule a call with you. And then creating content for people in your niche to encourage them to schedule a sales call with you. Okay? Should be doing that. Closing sales appointments. Conducting sales calls via Zoom to sign strangers into paying clients using your sales script. And then delivering value, which is actually like, so constantly working on your expertise, training and practicing your craft, like constantly seeking. Foundations of your business is niche, problem, solution, offer, and expertise. But we'll get into that in more detail. Solid foundations of mindset. So nailing your understanding of mindset. So fixing your belief systems, fixing your identity, fixing your paradigms. This is all going to come across to you as like weird, woo-wah, like what the hell, I don't need that, I don't know what that means. But trust me, like I said, the mindset stuff, don't skip it, we'll get into that. The next thing that's important is booking sales appointments. So consistently reaching out to people in your niche with your offer to encourage them to schedule a call with you. And then creating content for people in your niche to encourage them to schedule a sales call with you. Okay? Should be doing that. Closing sales appointments. Conducting sales calls via Zoom to sign strangers into paying clients using your sales script. And then delivering value, which is actually like, giving people what they want. So constantly working on your expertise, training and practicing your craft, like constantly seeking more critical information and becoming more and more critical about the information that you seek. And then working with or on clients and getting them results, keeping your promises and making them really happy. So, basically my point is that if you want to become successful with this consulting business, you should be working on nailing the fundamentals of the business, nailing your foundations of the business, which is like, these things here, working on your mindset, booking appointments with outbound, booking appointments with inbound. Outbound is when you reach out to someone to get them to schedule a call. Inbound is when someone reaches out to you to schedule a call. So that's obviously like cold email or cold calling or cold DMing. This is obviously content. And then closing sales appointments, which is actually conducting the sales calls, and then actually delivering results. So, getting better at what you do and working with your clients to get them results. That's the quadrant. Okay, you can take a screenshot of this page if you want. Obviously, you can download this entire resource in the resource section of this video anyway. But remember this, because you're going to be tempted to work on all sorts of crap that doesn't matter. If it's not foundations and mindset, if it's not booking sales appointments, if it's not closing sales appointments, and if it's not delivering value or getting better at what you do, it's a damn waste of time. So that, my friends, is elucidatory axioms. We've covered causal law, we've covered making money, and we've explained how to actually make money. We've covered critical information and how to find this, and what we haven't. I'll cover how to find it when we talk about how to become an expert. So don't worry about that. I'm gonna blow your mind with that as well. I'm gonna show you how to like become an expert in something like really damn quickly, like how to become like one of the best at what you do in a completely unprecedented time. Because it's possible. I'm gonna show you how to do that. Then we've got lock and key. So like using the lock and key analogy to explain critical information and how it solves problems. Then in reality, we talked about how to change the world to your will by seeking information and applying it. How to actually apply information and what the 12-step process of application actually is. We've explained the business model and what it entails, and the 3 ways that you can go about it, and the idea that DIY is what you aim for in the end. But for now, we're probably going to do done for you. We've gone to the 6-figure roadmap, which is basically everything you have to do to become a 10K a month consultant or agency owner, whatever word you use. And then we talked about the quadrant. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This one was hell on earth to make, as I'm sure you can imagine. But I do it for the love of the game, and I do it for the love of the clients. And I just want to sort of reiterate this idea that I really do want the best for you, and I really do want you to become successful. And it would mean the world to me if you apply this information and see to it that you take responsibility for your situation and just try your damn best. That's all I ask. Because I can change your life if you let me. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, Charlie Morgan here, and welcome to 6-Figure Fusion. In this video, we're going to discuss the fundamentals, the foundations of a consulting business and what you need to have in place to become successful. Then we're going to continue to explore some more axioms, first principles, and fundamentals to help you better organize your thinking so you can make better decisions and to take better actions as you go through this training. I need you to see these foundational videos in the same way that you would approach a sport. So let's say that you wanted to learn tennis, okay? Now, if you were trying to get into tennis, and the first thing you did before even really doing anything, like you go down to your local tennis shop and let's say you buy a racket that's $10,000. You buy this tool, the best tennis racket you can find. It's, now like just having that racket doesn't make you good at tennis. And the same thing is true with this program. The racket represents the shiny objects, such as the sales script, or the outreach strategies to get clients, or the strategies to become an expert, or maybe it's the financial strategies later on, like, to learn how to manage the cash flow you make. And maybe it's the content strategy. Like, I'm going to give you the best tactics and strategies in the world to get clients, become an expert, manage the business, and get to 6 figures. That's going to happen. But those things, they are like the expensive tennis racket. In order for you to even know how to use a tennis racket, you need to understand the rules of the game. So these foundational videos, whilst they are long and arduous, and sometimes maybe you're not that stimulated by them, they are very, very, very important. Okay, so please make sure that you've watched elucidatory axioms before this video, and please do not skip any of the foundational videos, either in this week or the next week in the mindset module as well. I know it's a process. I know you're used to, Mr. Beast style editing and 15-second short form clips with Minecraft parkour put in the bottom. And I know asking some of you to watch a 3-hour video once a day is, I know it sucks, but if you can't watch a 2 or 3 hour video, how the hell are you going to build a business? Because trust me, it's way harder than this. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to discuss the consulting foundations, consulting hypothesis, the consulting equation, knowledge, memory, and time, exponential distribution, feedback loops, second order consequences, consequence maps, feeder actions, and then stickability and consistency. Once again, please do not put this video on a 2x speed. Please don't have any tabs open. Take your phone off your desk. Trust me, like if you get this stuff right, like sometimes literally all you have to do is get this stuff right. So please take it seriously. Please take my word for it. I really want the best for you. And I know that some of you might be looking at this agenda and being like, I don't care about second order consequences. Just give me the scripts. And those are the people. If you give into that narrative, you're not going to become successful. So without further ado, let's get into it. So welcome to 6-Figure Fusion. Here we will discover and define the core pieces of a successful consulting business, and we will boil your entire success with this program down to a simple equation. We're also going to continue to build on more important fundamentals to set your mind straight. And like I said, please ensure that you've watched the previous videos before starting this one. So here we've got consulting foundations. So it's very, 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 very important that you get your foundations right. So it's just like anything, if you're building a house and you try and build that house on sand or on mud or on a cliff with poor foundations, it's going to fall down. So what are the foundations of a consulting business? What are these, core pieces of Lego, so to speak, that we build everything on top of? Because that's really what a foundation is. It's a core building block that every single thing that you build, you add into your business, is built on these foundations. And so it's kind of comes back to what I was saying a minute ago. If you mess up the foundations, it doesn't matter how good your sales script is, because a great sales script on top of terrible foundations will be outperformed by a terrible sales script built on incredible foundations. The foundations are where most of your leverage is. So the first foundation of a consulting business is a niche. This is patient zero of the foundation, so to speak. This is where we start. Now, a niche, or if you're using the American term, which some of you probably will be, a niche is a group of people. And that's it. It's a group of people. And a group of people become a niche when they can be grouped together by a statement or feeling of identity. The group or the niche shares the same current situation, desired situation, problems, goals, struggles, beliefs, routines, stories, lifestyles, etc. So people belong to niches based on a lot of different things. For example, they belong to a niche based on their work, their ideology, their diet, their culture, their religion, what they eat for breakfast in the morning, okay? We can segment and group humanity into neat and tidy pockets based on the behaviors that they partake in, or the thoughts they have, or the belief systems that that carry them through the world. Now, a single person can belong to multiple niches at the same time. For example, let's say that you are a consultant and you also happen to like classical music. Now, you belong to 2 niches, so obviously you belong to more than 2. But if you're a consultant and you love classical music, then you are in the consulting niche, which means that you're part of this group of people that are called consultants online, and you're also in this niche of people that like classical music. Okay. Now, most people belong to a ton of niches, but they will have a main niche that characterizes the majority of their identity or their life. And so for example, for me, the niche could be YouTuber, or it could be consultant, or it could be multimillionaire as another example. That's a specific niche. Now, niches can be B2B. So B2B stands for business to business, and this basically means like what are we exchanging with? So how we discussed in elucidatory axioms that money is created when value is made. Money is made when value is created, okay? And so making money is an exchange between you and the other person, and it's this exchange of value to money. And so a B2B niche is basically where you're selling to businesses, and this should say business here, okay? Or this should say consumer, and this should say consumer, okay? So niches can be B2B or B2C. So if it's B2B, then you're selling to businesses. If it's B2C, then you're selling to consumers. Now, all niches are really B2P because it's always business to person, because who runs a business, right? It's a person. So even if you're working in the B2B niche, let's say that your niche is, I don't know, let's say you work with dentists, right? Dental practices. Well, when it comes to you selling, you're still selling to the owner of the practice. So it's still kind of B2C, but it's not, because they're a human, they're like a business person, right? So we've got B2B, B2C, but it's always B2P, you're always selling to a person, and that's how that works. So if you're wondering what some examples of business niches are, then we can look at these 2 resources that you should have access to through this document that will be available in the resources section. I kind of took the liberty here of defining pretty much every single niche, at least B2B niche, in the world. There's like 4,000 of them. So, you can have a look through here. But, for example, like a breakfast restaurant. Like every breakfast restaurant in the world is a niche, Or, let's say a cardiologist, private cardiologists. That's a B2B niche. It's a business offering service. Or let's say a sushi restaurant. There's a niche as well there, Or we could scroll again and find dog trainer. That's a niche. So all of these things that you can see here are niches, and some of them are kind of, they're not, I took this from a resource, so some of them might not be very good niches, like an oil store, although that could be a good niche, I don't know. But you kind of get the point, just basically businesses that can be aggregated together. And then we've also got this thing here from Yelp, which is basically a category list of like all of these different industries that Yelp kind of promotes or has available in their directory. And so, if we take the pet industry, we could see that, let's just have a look here, reptile shops could be a niche, okay? Now, in the personal niche space, I'm not recommending nor not recommending these niches. These are just some random examples that came to mind based on some of my friends that have consulting businesses that told me about. So, for example, like binge eaters. So, women between the ages of 35 and 40 or 45, whatever, that have a binge eating habit. Or young men that are addicted to porn. Or husbands in failing marriages. Or parents that have overachieving kids. Or professional basketball players. Or astronauts. Any group of people, any group identity that can be assigned to an aggregate of people is a niche, okay? And so, with your consulting business, and we're going to talk more about this in the niche video, so for now I'm just bringing your awareness to these foundations, but in later videos when we talk about picking your niche, picking the problem that you're going to solve, etc., you can do B2B or B2C. Like you don't have to have an offer and solve a problem of just helping people make more money or helping businesses get more customers. Those offers work and they're very compelling and they can make you money. But I know a guy that helps a close friend of mine called Leon. Some of you maybe know who he is. His name's Leon, and Leon had a big drinking problem when he was younger, and he managed to overcome this drinking problem and fix it and change his life. And now he makes lots of money teaching people how to overcome alcohol addiction and how to cure alcoholism, and he's very good at it. And he's built a very successful business and career off that. And so his niche is alcoholics. And he picked the problem to solve for them. And so that's an example of a B2C consulting business. Whereas me, for example, I'm B2B. So I help agency owners, coaches, and consultants with high ticket client acquisition. And that's what I help them do. And that's B2B, because I'm selling to businesses. So there are tens of thousands of niches. Like in the business space, there's thousands of them. Personal niches, there's thousands of them. Like there's a lot. And I'm going to show you how to pick the one that is right for you and how to get in on that. So don't worry about that. So niches exist inside of industries. An industry is basically a segment of the entire economy, okay? So when I talk about industries, I'm talking about the manufacturing industry, or the tourism industry, the food industry, the transportation industry, real estate, technology, education, professional services, agriculture, financial services, banking, media, fitness. These are like the big macro shell industries, and inside of an industry, you have lots of different niches. So for example, we've got professional services industry. Well, inside the professional services industry, we might have the consulting niche, for example. Now, industries contain niches, and typically, niches contain niches, and we would call these micro niches. So this is where it gets kind of interesting, because like you can't niche down into an industry. So you can't say, oh, I work in the banking niche, because the banking industry is, it's gigantic. I don't know how many hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars, probably trillions in the world of the total economic machine are attributed to this bad boy. But you're not niche down into an industry. You niche down into a specific group of people inside of an industry. And inside of that group, you usually find other groups as well. So coming back to the alcohol example, we could say that Leon works in the, you could say it could be the professional services industry, or it could be the education industry, where he's educating people to quit alcohol abuse. And, he, inside of that industry, he's brought it all the way down to alcoholics, and then he's brought it once again all the way specifically down to, men who are alcoholics, and then all the way down again to men who have certain proclivities and stuff like that. And so the more specific you can get with a niche, typically the better. You might have heard the phrase before that the riches are in the niches, to use an Americanism for you, okay? So for example, restaurants are a niche, and inside of the restaurant niche, we have the micro niche of steakhouses. Another example could be, we could take the automotive industry, okay, the transport industry, probably the automotive industry, and we could say inside of the automotive industry, we have the car dealership niche. But inside of the car dealership niche, you have the Mercedes-Benz dealership niche, because, it's a specific micro part of it. And another example could be, we've got the fitness industry, and a niche within the fitness industry could be gyms, and a micro niche within the gym niche could be CrossFit gyms specifically, or it could be yoga studios specifically, okay? Or it could be budget gyms, or it could be high-ticket gyms. And these are the business examples. Now let's get into a personal example. So let's say that professional basketball players are your niche. Well, NBA league players are a micro niche, because they're, there's only a few of them, it's pretty specific. Then let's say that binge eaters are the niche. Well, teenage male binge eaters with worried parents could be a micro niche. And then let's say that vegans are a niche. And then we could say, well, elderly male vegans are a micro niche. So maybe your niche that you choose to go for, and I'm not advocating for this, and I'm not saying that this is a good niche or a bad niche, I'm just giving you an example. Maybe you say, I help men over the age of 65 turn vegan, or I help men over the age of 65 turn carnivore or keto, or any diet, right? And so the point I'm making here is I don't want you to think that the examples I'm giving you are, I'm not advocating for them, I'm not recommending them, I'm not telling you that you should start an alcohol rehabilitation program. Like, I'm just giving you examples. So please don't think for a second that these niches are ones that I'm recommending, and please don't think for a second that I'm not recommending them. I'm just giving you examples to make it to solidify. You need to pick your own niche, it needs to be your decision, and like I said, I will explain how to. So don't worry about picking a niche yet. You might have some rough idea as to where you want to take it, but I'm going to give you the most comprehensive and solid exercise in a later video to explain. So this video is just here to introduce you to the idea of a niche. We'll talk about it later, okay? So once we've picked a niche, once we've nailed the first foundation, and the reason that I said earlier, like the foundations are the most important, is because the market you're in is kind of the biggest constraint and bottleneck to your entire business success. Like for example, if you want to go into the student niche where you want to help students, then you're probably not going to make that much money because, well, students, like historically and famously, are broke and don't have much money. And therefore, if you base the foundation of your business on a market that has significant financial restriction, then your business is going to face significant financial restriction. So there is a lot of stuff that goes into picking a niche, and we'll get into it later. So the second foundation is the problem. So the problem is basically, well, we explore this in elucidatory axioms, right? The problem is your opportunity to provide a solution, to provide critical information, to create value, alleviate pain. So we know that money is made when value is created, and we know that value is created when pain is alleviated, and we know that the only real way to alleviate pain is to solve a problem, which we do through the application of critical information. Now, if what I just said to you makes absolutely no sense, it's probably because you haven't watched elucidatory axioms, so please make sure you have. So at this point, you should know that we need to have a problem to make money. We need to solve a problem to make money. Problems are unwelcome obstacles or situations that prevent a person from achieving a desired situation or outcome. And the great thing about problems is they are what we would call fractal. Okay? What that means is it's pattern-based, and problems are shared by a niche. So niches share many problems, but there's always a few problems that, that basically are the most painful and that are shared by most niche members. So to give you some examples, if we once again use the binge eating niche, as I said, I'm not recommending this niche, nor am I not recommending it, it's just the first example that came to mind. Some problems that binge eaters have are going to be cravings, relapse, self-hate, body image issues, etc., etc. And so what we can do when we have a niche and we define a group of people is, like, we can start to extrapolate the problem that one person in that niche has to every single person in that niche. Okay? So take yourself, for example, right now, and you're going through the Imperium Academy. You are in this sort of business opportunity, you want to start a business online, make money online niche, okay? And the problems that you have that are preventing you from getting what you want, you share with pretty much everybody else in this program. And that's just a truth. You're going to have similar belief systems. Maybe not going to be identical to everyone, but in the aggregate, if I took 100,000 of you, I could make some pretty damn solid, mathematically accurate predictions about what your day looks like, how you think, what you want, what you don't want, what you desire, and more importantly, what problems you have. And once you understand the big problems in the niche, and you understand that everybody in that niche has those big problems, now we've got a scalable business model because we can solve that en masse. So another example could be a restaurant. So if the restaurant niche, which is a B2B niche, one problem they might have, and I'm just guessing here, I don't actually know, one problem they might have is finding good chefs, or low profit margins, or another one could be seasonal trade. So maybe your niche is, I help restaurants in hot countries or in holiday areas get more table bookings in the winter. Just an example, right? I don't know if that would work or not. I've never tried it. I've never seen it work. Just an example. Once again, I'm not recommending these, blah, 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 disclaimer. Okay, they're examples. And what I don't want to see is suddenly 1,000 consulting businesses spring up, suddenly helping restaurants find good chefs or summer restaurants getting, like, do you know what I mean? Like, please think for yourself. I don't even know if these problems exist. I'm just giving you examples. So do not base your entire financial future off of some random examples that came to mind when I was making this. I can't stress that enough. Please do not let this bias you into thinking that one of these is the right niche or the wrong niche to pick. So as per the niche selection, I'm going to help you find a painful problem in later videos. So don't sweat it for now. I just want you to be aware the next foundation above the niche is the problem, okay? And I'm going to show you how to find a problem. We're going to pick a niche, then we're going to do some research, find out what they struggle with, and that's that. So the third foundation is the solution. So the solution is basically a manifestation of the application of accurate and appropriate critical information to a problem. So a solution happens when we take a problem and we solve it, okay? And the way we solve it, as we know now, is by applying critical information to it. That's what a consultant does. Now, niches pay for solutions. Solutions feel pretty damn good because they alleviate pain. And we know that when we alleviate pain by providing a solution, that solution becomes associated with value. Because remember from the last video, value is nothing but an association between sentiment and solution. That's kind of really what it is. So, for example, if we take the binge eating example, these are their problems, then, maybe the solution we'll provide is training on how to manage your cravings. Or maybe you make a pill that you give to people who are binge eating and it has the specific genetic biological code to make them not crave crisps. I don't know, right? You get the point. Another example could be restaurants. So, let's say that one of the problems they have is finding good chefs. Well, maybe you become a recruitment consultant and you do done-for-you chef finding. Or maybe you come up with a brand new restaurant strategy and a new dish to sell. Like a primary example of this problem thing, really good example. If any of you are familiar with Mr. Beast, which most of you will be, if you remember the Beast Burger during the COVID lockdowns, so what Mr. Beast's team did is they did this. I mean, this was damn brilliant. All of these restaurants were, closed, and they all had kitchens and facilities to, make food. And they had, there were key workers and staff, but no one was going to these restaurants. So what Mr. Beast's team did, and what Mr. Beast did, which was absolutely genius, was create this franchisable Mr. Beast Burger, where he went to all these restaurants, like across America, and was like, hey, like here's a burger to sell. I'm gonna whack my name on it. Here's exactly how to make it. We'll provide all of the ingredients and everything you need, and you can sell it, and then you can deliver it to people. So like we're doing food delivery here. So like people can still get what they want from the restaurant, but it's branded and everyone knows what it is, and it's really profitable because it's literally just meat and bread. So crack on. And Mr. Beast made a damn lot of money with the Beast Burger, because suddenly the niche of restaurants had this massive problem of, hang on, no one's coming because of COVID. And so he found a way to solve that problem, and obviously the restaurants paid him significantly for that. So the solution is what you bring to the table to solve the problem. It's an amalgamation of the critical information that you have sought, found, processed, and applied, basically. And solutions create results. So these are the first three foundations. You pick a group of people, you find the problem they have, and then you solve that problem. Now, once again, I'll walk you through how to do the whole solutions thing in future videos. So the whole point of the solution is to create the result. And that is the fourth foundation of a consulting business, which is the result that you actually get someone. So a result is simply the synthesis or outcome that happens as a result of the application to the antithesis to the thesis. So in English, if you remember what that means from, if you remember what happens with this cause and effect model that we talked about in elucidatory axioms, really we've got a problem and a solution. So the niche has a problem and you have a solution. You apply the solution to the problem, we let some time elapse, and then we get the person the result, or the niche, the result they want. And the great thing about being in a niche and picking a specific group of people is this becomes very repeatable. And so your entire business just basically becomes about finding people that have the same problems and then just repeating that solution over and over again. And this is how we effectively print money. If you don't have a niche, you can't do this, because every customer you sign is different and has different problems. And that's just a nightmare. Like, if you're like a marketing agency, for example, and you serve anyone, well, the thing is you're never going to really provide a better result to a specific type of business compared to a specific niche-based marketing agency. Anyway, that's a story for another day. So yeah, this is how results happen, okay? Now, results are not binarily good or bad. And they work on a scale of weak to strong. And this can depend on how much time it took or how easy it was or how good the result was. So when you say, when I say to you, like this program's going to get you good results, like it's not really, like, well, how do you define good? It's not really good or bad, it's how good or how bad, or how strong are the results or how weak are the results. And the quality of the results you get from this program are going to be determined by like how quickly you managed to get them, how easy it was, and really like how big the result was in the first place. Because if you go through another program and it takes you, 6 months to make $1,000, and then you go through this program and it takes you 6 months but you make $100,000, well, both programs got you results. They both solved the problem of helping you make money online, but one was significantly better than the other. And that's why I'm putting so much effort into these videos, right? This video is a prime example of that. The last two videos have taken me like 2 weeks to make because I want you to get good results. And the only way I'm going to do that is by making sure it's as straightforward and easy as possible. So results work on a scale of contrast. Some consulting businesses get weak results, and some businesses in the consulting space get really good results. And whether a result is good or bad or not is only compared to the other results that you could get from the other options. So I know, for example, that this program is going to smash every other make money online program out there. And I know that my results are going to be good because they will be better and stronger than everybody else's programs. And everybody else's programs that cost tens of thousands of dollars. This thing, as you're well aware, does not cost that. And it's probably 10 times better. So this is how you build good foundations. It's like the result is an absolutely imperative foundation. And so when you're building your products and your programs and you're making your services, they better be fucking good. Because if they're good, then you're having a stronger foundation, okay? Now, the strength of the solution is determined by the strength of the result it basically generates after the application to the problem. So, for example, you might consider this program a strong solution compared to other programs out there. If it gets you better results than the previous programs or mentorships you've tried, then it's better. And you'll base this assessment on your perception of the program as well. So, you might say Charlie's program's good, not only based on the results you get, but based on your perception of the results that you will get. So, my confidence and my effort is going to seep into your psychology, and you're going to say, oh, well, hopefully you'll say, maybe you hate this thing, I hope not. You're going to say, oh, this is a good program. And that's happening because I'm putting effort in, etc. So remember, solutions are only weak or strong when results are measured and compared to the results of another solution. So whether you've got a strong solution or not is basically dependent upon whether or not it brings about a strong result. Because I could whip up this course. I could whip up the Imperium Academy in, this could be the case for any product, right? I could whip this course up in 2 weeks flat. I could. Like, I could just cut a bunch of corners and just whack it together, patch it up, and then just sell it to you, or give it to you, whatever, right? I could do that. And the thing is that would be doing an injustice, because first of all, the result's not going to be as good because we're not being as thorough, and we're not taking our time, and I'm not giving you everything you need. And what that means is the solution just sucks, which means that one of the core foundations of my business is weak. And so everything I try and build on top of it is just doomed to fail. It doesn't matter, like in the long term, over a good enough time horizon, it doesn't matter how good you are at sales, it doesn't matter how easy you find getting clients, it doesn't matter how great your mindset is. If the results you get for people suck, then everything's going to come crashing down. And the prime example of this is this program. I spent 2 weeks on 2 videos. Most people spend 2 weeks on their entire program. This is a 6-month build for me. I'm in for it, and you're going to be able to see this as I progress through this thing. This is not an easy thing to do, making these programs. I'm not saying that you need to spend 2 weeks on 2 videos at the beginning. That's not what I'm saying at all. The only reason I can do this is because I've been doing this for like 7-8 years now. Your first programs are going to be sort of quick and scrappy, and you're going to try and get the job done. You don't want to chase perfection at the beginning. But we're going to talk about that in week 3 when we talk about becoming an expert and building a product and stuff. So once again, keeping it high level, you get the point. So here's a concrete example of this, of this sort of strong and weak results thing. So let's say that you are a recruiting consultant for high-end restaurants, and let's go back to this example saying that you help high-end restaurants, so restaurants with Michelin stars. That could be your niche, okay? And what you do is you help them find qualified chefs. And maybe there are 4 other recruiters or 4 other consultants that you're up against, and they're all trying to bring qualified candidates to the table, okay? So it's a race. So there's 5 businesses, you're one of them, they're all serving the same niche, trying to do the same thing. Now, the question is well, Charlie, if I've got 4 competitors and me, and we all have the same niche, and we all solve the same problem and have the same solution, then how are we any different? How do I differentiate myself? Well, the answer is in the quality of the result. So let's say that all the chefs are qualified and can get the job done for the same salary. So all 5 recruiters, or all 5 consultants, they all provide candidates for this problem, they all provide a solution for this problem, and all the solutions are qualified. So all of the chefs fit the bill, and they're all going to accept the same salary. However, the person who introduces Chef 1 might have 4 years of experience and a couple of regional culinary awards. So they've won some awards for cooking. But Chef 5, whilst being qualified and accepting the salary, Chef 5 might have 30 years of experience, 3 Michelin stars, and a massive culinary social media audience to boot. Like a massive food audience on Instagram to drive traffic to the restaurant. And this person, wherever they work, their audience goes to find them. Like, it's the same niche, right? High-end restaurants, and it's the same problem, finding qualified chefs, and it's the same business model, consulting, but if consulting business number 5 brings a chef that has 30 damn years of experience and 3 Michelin stars in an audience, and consulting business number 1 just brings some dude that's won a couple of awards and has 4 years of experience, who do you think is going to make more money? Who's adding more value? Like the person who gets the best result, right? It's really simple stuff. You have to gauge this. You have to understand your success, your financial success is about how good the results you get for people. Do not be fooled by anything else. Anything. It's all about this. You're up against a lot of people in the same niche solving the same problem with a similar looking solution, but not all solutions are created equally. Okay? One will be better than the other. And it's the one that's the best, it's the one that wins in the long term. And that's the only reason I have so many people in this damn program now. I mean, I'm making it now, there's no one in here yet. But I'm anticipating that when this thing's launched, it's going to go a little bit mental. And that's because it's going to get the best results. So the consulting business that brought Chef 5 to the table, and please excuse this terrible pun, has the strongest solution, and therefore the strongest results and add the most value. And this person will make the most money. In the long term, with enough time applied, consultant 1 with Chef 1, who is kind of okay at getting chefs in, but they're not great, like they might win in the short term. If they're really good at selling and marketing, and they're really like great in front of a camera, and they're really good at like talking and stuff, like yeah, they might beat consultant number 5 in the short term. But when time starts to elapse and people in this niche start talking to each other and the real results come out in the wash, it's going to be Chef 5 that wins. Okay? And this happened with me in my consulting business at the beginning. When I started Imperium Acquisition and I was helping agency owners, coaches, consultants, like it took the market like 2 years for everyone to realize that easy grow was just the best thing. Like there were people that were better at marketing than me, and there were people that were better at sales than me, and there were people that were making tens of millions of dollars by making ridiculous claims and being good with Facebook ads. And I just spent all my time I spent 12 months building easy grow, and I knew that if I just did that, given like another couple of years, like soon the market would realize, and then everyone would flock to us, and that's literally exactly what's happened. And everyone that relied on fancy marketing, well, we've left them in the dirt, and a lot of them are now working as marketing managers for random companies. Like we've destroyed them, and you destroy your competitors by providing better results. So here's an example here. So we've got a strong chef or a weak chef, not physically, just in terms of their skills, right? But Chef 1 could be a good chef. This could be 4 years of experience with some regional awards, really promising. But in comparison to Chef 5, they're pretty damn shit. And so I want you to understand this: that results and solutions, they work on a scale of contrast, positioned against other solutions that your competitors are providing. And so if you
So here's an example, obviously, of how different consulting businesses can solve the same problem and be in the same niche, but this is why I make $10, $20 million a year. And some of my competitors make $5 grand a month. Like the difference in these two results is obscene. Getting results is one thing, getting strong results is another. Once again, this comes back to critical information, it comes back to effort, it comes back to experience. If I've got the critical information to make Imperium Academy, it's in my brain, right? Because I've done it. I could, like I said, I could build the academy, Imperium Academy, in 2 weeks and just scrap it together and not bother with the colors and making it aesthetically pleasing so you can do it better, not bothering with anything. Just here's some Google Docs and some slides. What a waste. So the fifth foundation and the final foundation is your offer. So your offer is basically how your solution and results are packaged and positioned, okay? Your offer is basically what someone gets in exchange for money. Now, this is a pretty important thing to realize, and I'm just gonna do this, sorry, excuse me. I just wanna make sure that this is formatting. It's not formatting correctly, which is really gonna frustrate me, but there's not much I can really do about it. Okay, we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. Okay, so the foundation 5 offer. So, sorry about that. So your offer is essentially, like you have your solution, you have the results. And if I go to, if you go to someone and like if I went to someone and said, hey, I'm going to teach you the foundations of business, you probably wouldn't buy that. But if I went to you and said, hey, I'm going to teach you how to get 10K a month, you'd probably buy that. Because there's a strong difference between what we need and what we want. And I can tell you a story about this. There's a kid who has a dog, and his dog gets sick. He goes to the vet, and the vet says to the kid, the dog needs to take this pill. And the kid tries to get the dog to eat the pill. And the dog, the dog needs the pill, but it just won't eat it. It's like, the kid tries to put it in its food, dog leaves the pill. Kid tries to prise its mouth open, the dog spits the pill out. Kid tries everything to get the dog to eat the pill. Kid goes to his grandma. Grandma, I can't get this dog to eat this pill. Like, dog's gonna die. It needs the pill. And grandma's like, well, have you tried wrapping it in ham? Kid's like, what? And she's like, wrap it in ham, give it to the dog. So kid goes back home. He wraps this pill, takes this little white pill. It's got all this dog slobber and stuff on it at this point. It's not looking too pretty. He wraps it in ham from the fridge. Calls dog over, gives the dog the ham with the little pill inside of it. Dog goes ham on the ham. Dog eats the ham. Pill goes down. Dog eats the pill. Kid's like, oh my god, it worked. Goes back to grandma. It worked, grandma. She's like, well, of course it worked. He's like, well, why did it work? Grandma says, sometimes you have to give people what they want to give them what they need. And that's exactly what you're doing with an offer. People don't buy what you do. They buy the outcome and result of you doing it. Okay? It's a very important lesson. You don't buy personal training. You buy an aesthetic physique. Okay? You don't buy a bottle of water. You buy hydration. You buy the outcome. And that's the simplest way I can explain offers to you. And this goes deeper, and I will explain it in way more detail when we get into the offer modules. But for now, this is all you have to understand. So offers are comprised of a few things. Identity call-out, which is basically your niche, the outcome, the time frame, the price, and then risk reversal. And this is market dependent. So the identity call-out is like, I help, binge eaters or dentists or alcoholics or whatever. Outcome, this is what you help them achieve. Time frame is the outcome in which you help them achieve it. The price is pretty self-explanatory. And then risk reversal is like, what happens if it doesn't work, and do they get their money back or a refund? So for the academy, I can give you an example for the academy that you're going through now, Imperium Academy. I help, people make money online in X amount of days. I mean, you probably know the offer because you clicked on the damn thing, right? So offers exist as statements made to your niche in long or short form copy. And this is going to depend on the marketing scenario. Once again, there's going to be more on offers in a later video, so don't worry too much about that. Just like solutions, offers work on a scale of strength and weakness. So here's an example, okay? So, we've got EasyGrow's offer versus other client acquisition program offers. So in EasyGrow, and this might change, but right now, as I'm recording this, in EasyGrow, we guarantee a certain number of clients, and it's a pretty damn big number of clients. So we actually guarantee, like, if someone joins EasyGrow, that they will sign clients. Like we say, like, if you do not sign this amount of clients in this amount of time, then we will give you back your money. And that's called risk reversal, okay? We have a guarantee. So that's our offer. And it's just a standalone offer. And it's only strong because if you compare it to our competitors, it's way better. So our second competitor, they guarantee like half the number of clients that we do. So our offer is twice as good. And then some of our other competitors are like, hey, I'll just help you make your money back. That's not a very good offer, is it, compared to ours? So offers work on a scale of contrast. So this is basically the foundations that you need to have. These are the foundations. And so what we can do is, with these foundations, is we can create what we would call a hypothesis. And this is what a scientist would do, with a scientific experiment, for example, where you take the variables and you combine them together to see what happens. And so with these 5 foundations, we create what I call the consulting hypothesis. So these are the 5 things, and you have to get these right. Like I said, it doesn't matter how expensive your damn tennis racket is. If you don't even understand the rules of the game, if you don't have, like, if you can't walk, what's the point? It's like, you need to know how to build the foundations. And so the foundations are niche,
problem, solution, result, and offer. So the niche is basically, the group of people that you're helping. The problem is what you're helping them solve. The solution is the bundle of critical information that you're applying to the problem to solve it. The result is the manifestation of the solution, and the offer is the way you package the whole thing up to make this process make sense to this group of people. If you nail these, you will be successul. Doesn't matter how good your sales script is. Like, let's think about this. Niche. Let's say your niche is people who have cancer. The problem is obviously that they're going to die and they have cancer. Terrible, right? The solution could be, a chemical compound that can be physically ingested that kills cancer. And the result of that is that the cancer is gone. And so your offer would be, swallow this pill once and you'll wake up tomorrow cancer-free. I mean, talk about some strong foundations, right? The stronger that these things are, the more likely you are to be successful. And I cannot stress and overstate the importance of these 5 things. If you pick a really, and I'm going to show you how to, we're going to get these. We're going to pick them. I'm going to show you how to do this and nail the foundations. What I need you to understand right now is that these things are worth getting right. Okay? I need you to really believe and buy into the idea that these things are worth spending a lot of time on, because we're going to spend a lot of damn time on them. Okay? If you nail the niche, and you pick a great niche, you pick a painful problem, you figure out how to solve that, and you figure out how to do it really damn well, and you figure out how to position that solution and that result in a way that compels them to buy, then you'll be successful. This is all it is. N plus P, well, these should be plus signs really, shouldn't they? So let's add these in, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. N plus P plus S plus R plus O equals S. And if you're taking notes, you should write this thing down, because this equation is going to make you a millionaire. And I know it's going to make you a millionaire because, well, it made me one. And not just a millionaire, but a multi-8-figure millionaire. Pretty damn good place to be. So a hypothesis is a combination of variables and constants that, if combined, hypothesize a specific outcome. Basically, it's a theory. Okay? So when you pick a niche, a problem, a solution, a result, and offer, you're creating a theory. And what you're going to do with your business is go out into the world and try and get customers, and you're going to test your theory. And I'm going to help you come up with a pretty damn good theory, so hopefully it will work. It should work, I promise you. Now, you want to think of yourself as some sort of scientist. When you're creating your business foundations in later videos, imagine you're a scientist coming up with a hypothesis that you're going to test in the market. And there'll be more on this in later resources. In this case, the outcome is success. Okay? And I'm defining success as accomplishing your goal. So this just represents the accomplishment of your goal. So, before we continue, damn good niche, damn good problem, damn good solution, damn good result, and then a damn good offer. If you nail that, you get those things right, you're really going to be in for a pretty damn good life. I can tell you that, because it's exactly what I did. So what we can then do is we can use this consulting hypothesis and our newfound understanding of the foundations to boil consulting down to a simple equation. And that's basically CS plus CH plus P plus A plus K times C to the power of T equals DS. And you might be saying Charlie in English, please, so let me explain. So what we've got here is CS. So the first part of the consulting equation is your current situation. And that's where you are right now, okay? The second part of the consulting equation is CH. And CH is your consulting hypothesis, okay? Which is your foundations. So we're going to create this hypothesis in this week. The third part of the consulting equation is P, and that's your plan. And that's the checklist I've already given you in elucidatory axioms. It's your to-do list, it's your action items. It's basically doing this program, or the idea of the program. And then A, which is action, which is ticking the boxes and doing the work. And then this is where it gets interesting, because we're going to do a little power here, right? So it's plus K times C. So what's K and C? Well, K represents knowledge, which is basically having and finding and seeking the right critical information. And we times K by C, which is your character. Your character is an amalgamation of your mindset, your identity, your paradigm, your belief systems, your worldview, your traits, your skills, everything that is you, basically. Because if we take the right knowledge and we take the right person, then you're going to go. Successful. It's very simple, okay? T in this little equation represents time, and this is basically however long it takes. Like, in order for you to do anything, you need to have time. That's kind of like, without that, you need it, otherwise it doesn't work, right? So that's that. And then the last thing is the DS, which is your desired situation. So current situation, where you are right now, plus your consulting hypothesis, plus your plan, plus your action of that plan, plus your knowledge, plus your times by your character, to the power of time equals desired situation. These are the first principles that you need to have in tow to achieve what you want. So yeah, this is really all you need to become successful as a consultant, okay? So, we're going to continue on through this video in a second, but it's very straightforward. You already have your current situation. You're going to have your consulting hypothesis by the end of week 1. You already have a roadmap, so I've given you the checklist of actions that you need to do, and the plan will unfold as we go through the content. And then the action. This is the only thing. This is the only thing that I cannot give you, that I wish, if there was some miraculous way that I could bend the laws of reality, then I would. The only thing that I can't give you is action, which is doing the work and applying the causes. I'm going to tell you to do everything that you need to do. That's all I can do. I wish I could do it for you, but on a mass scale, I simply can't. So the action is up to you. I cannot control. Do the fucking work, okay? If I tell you to do something, do it. Don't put it off. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't put it on a list unless I tell you to. Just do the work. Like, I'm telling you, if you listen to these videos properly and you do everything I tell you to do, and you let time elapse, you do it consistently and properly, and you don't get results, I would be perplexed. I would be very, very surprised, okay? And you'd be completely within your right to hop on school and say well, why the hell isn't this thing working? But it should. So K, knowledge. This program will provide you with the knowledge you need. C, week 2 will help you get there. So character. The mindset module will help you do this. This is one of the most important things. So besides doing the work, if you don't get the mindset and the foundations right, you're screwed. And then DS, desired situation. So once again, you should know what you want. If you don't, we'll cover this in week 2. So there's one little tidbit that we're missing from the above explanation. There's one little thing, which is this little bad boy here, this little upwards hat looking thing. I've snuck that in there. Some of you might have noticed I haven't talked about it yet. Well, the upwards little hat thing is an exponent. And this means to the power of. So an exponent is basically a power law And what power law is it's something that, amplifies the growth or, the trajectory of something. And I'm going to give you a full explanation as to how exponents work in a second here. They're very, very important to understand. Now, time is an exponent, meaning that it basically is a power or has power to create huge exponential effect. Now, what time will do is it will compound all of your efforts to create huge effects in the future. And we're going to talk about time in a lot of detail here, because this really is the most misunderstood part of the equation. Okay, and this is where we're going to start to get a little bit abstract, and hold on to your hats here, because I'm going to blow your absolute mind again. Hopefully, I did it last time. Okay, so yeah, time compounds stuff, and if you want to achieve your desired situation, the chances are you need a little bit of compounding to help you get there. And if you're wondering what compounding is, it's basically when something's growing or something's happening, and nothing really happens at the beginning. Like it takes a long, long time for it to gain momentum, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, just whoosh, the thing goes crazy. Primary example that will help you understand is like rolling a snowball down a hill with snow on it. So you pick up some snow, you're on top of a big hill, pick up some snow. You compact it into your hands get all cold and painful, but you don't care because it's snowing and you're having fun. So at least that's what we used to do in the UK, never snows in the UK. So you compact this little snowball into your hands. You put it at the top of the hill and you start rolling the snowball down the hill. And as the snowball rolls, it picks up snow. And in the beginning, like the snowball, it's not getting very big because there's a very small surface area. But over time, gradually, and then it gets a little bit bigger, and then suddenly, there's like a point of, literally in physics, it's called point of critical mass, and the snowball just gets massive really quickly. Like the surface area increases, which means it picks up more snow, which means that the surface area increases, which means it picks up more snow, and then we have this thing called amplification occur, where it gets really big really quickly. But it takes a long time to get big enough to start getting big quickly. That's what an exponent does. And time is an absolutely beastly exponent, and I'm going to show you how to use it and become a millionaire. So, okay, strap yourself in for a bit of a intellectual, abstract adventure, for lack of better words. So, knowledge, memory, and time. So, there's a few things that we need to have to become successful, and a couple of them are knowledge and time. And the rest of them are pretty self-explanatory, so we're going to focus here. So let's talk about knowledge and time. So knowledge is basically really just learning and remembering what you need to know to become successful. Time. So, there's a few things that we need to have to become successful. Time is basically the period or sequence of events that brings effect out of cause. So what is time? I mean, that's a pretty damn scary question to try and answer on the spot. But if you think critically about this, time is basically, it's a dimension. And what that means is it's a space that we can use to observe the world. In essence, it's a dimension, right? It's really the definition of time. And what it is it's basically a sequence of events. Now, we have obviously standardized time into years and days and weeks and hours and minutes and seconds. But think about this for a second. Days don't really exist. Okay? Hours don't really exist. They exist because we think they do. But there's no biological structure that is an hour. It's not real. It's not like an ocean that you can point to and be like, oh, that's a thing. Like we created these words like hour, second, etc. to do something called standardization, which is where you use words to give meaning to things. Because imagine not having like hours. Imagine not having a calendar. Like we used to not have a calendar until like the Romans came along, and things kind of sucked before a calendar. Because how are you going to meet someone? Like, oh yeah, I'll meet you when the sun is in the sky at 60 degrees. But then you realize that 60 degrees in the measurement of an angle is also an abstraction that humans have created to make sense of the world. So without these standardizations, we get into a little bit of trouble. And so time isn't hours, it's not days, it's not weeks, it's not years. That's just how we understand it, and that's how we perceive the dimension of time. But what time really is it's basically just a sequence of events, okay? Now, knowledge and time, they have a pretty tricky relationship. And the reason I'm explaining this to you is because there's a real big pitfall for you to watch out for. And if I don't help you watch out for it, you'll fall into it and you will fail and your business will die, okay? And it's all to do with knowledge and time. So knowledge and time, they don't get along very well, okay? They're in a bit of a toxic relationship. They kind of need each other, for the person, the conscious mind to manifest a goal, but they don't really get along. They don't like each other that much. And this is because as a human, your memory really sucks. Okay? So remember, knowledge is about learning and remembering things. And the thing about memory is it gets worse with time. And so when we apply time to memory gets worse. And what that means is that over time, you forget things and therefore your knowledge decreases and gets worse. And so, look, remember, the entire world ticks on cause and effect. Okay? And that's how it works. So what's going to happen is this. You're going to put cause to effect, but it's going to take time for that cause to create the effect you desire. The problem is that as time goes on, your memory gets weaker. Now, you might be thinking, Charlie, why is that a problem? Why do I care? Well, eventually, if you were consistent over time, if you've done what you need to do, then the cause that you've done will create the effect you want. But by that point, you'll have either given up or switched to something else because it didn't work or it wasn't happening fast enough. These are some pretty common ones that we can just highlight in blue. Or you won't know why it happened and just put it up to luck, fate, or chaos. So let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to go through the Imperium Academy, okay? And what's going to happen is a year from now, 5 years from now, okay? If you, 5 years from now, if you haven't made a conscious effort to come back to these videos and to relearn and remember them, you will have forgotten them, I promise you. And if you don't believe me, then pick any non-fiction book you've ever read. Oh no, not even that. Pick any class you ever took in high school and pick a subject and tell me 10 things you know about that subject that would have been taught in that class. You can't remember, okay? And I don't want the excuse of, well, I just didn't remember it because it was just for an exam and I wasn't going to use it in the real world. Like, it doesn't matter. Pick a book that you love, your favorite book ever that you've read time and time again. Maybe you haven't got one, but pick a podcast episode that you've watched over and over again, or a documentary you've watched over and over again. Like, pick that book, or that documentary, or whatever, or that podcast. In that book, what does it say on line 7 in page 123? You don't know, right? That's kind of normal, 'cause you're not going to remember all the pages. But what if that line was really damn important? You're going to forget things. Same thing with your favorite movie. Like, what happens at 1 hour and 41 minutes and 37 seconds? Like, You probably don't know. You could give me a general answer, but if whatever happened in that movie was crucial to the success of your life or crucial to a certain thing happening that you want to happen, then you need to remember it. And so I know that what's going to happen with this program is if you're not continuously trying to remember what you've learned, you will forget it. And so what's going to happen with a lot of people in this program, and I hope it won't be you, it shouldn't be if you're listening, is you're going to go through the program, and then after 6 months, a lot of people will have given up, or they will have switched to something else. And they'll have switched to something else because they'll say, oh, this didn't work, or it wasn't happening fast enough. Oh, I tried Charlie's consulting program, it didn't work for me. And then it's like, well, really? Like, why not? Oh, it just wasn't for me. It just didn't work. It's like, well, what do you mean it didn't work? Because there's other people in the program that are getting results. So this sounds like a you problem, not a program problem, right? And the other kind of person that it will happen with is, like, if they don't remember this program, then they'll go through the program and they might get results and they won't remember why. They won't be able to attribute it back to the program. So this is very abstract. So let me give you a visual, okay? This is really important to remember. Like, if there's one thing to remember, it's this, okay? So look, things take time to work. This program is going to take a good year or two of consistent reminding and consistent action for you to actually become successful, okay? And I've told you this multiple times already. It's going to take time. The work you do today won't have a true major exponential effect for many years. You're not going to see the benefit of watching this video and remembering this video and applying this video for maybe like 5 years. I mean, hell, like 50 years. Like, you're not going to really see any absolutely, multi-millionaire, billionaire level 9-figure plays probably for 20 years, maybe 15, 20, 30 years. But even like getting to 6 figures, like, you're not going to see that happen for like maybe 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. Like, well, that's way too long. 6, 12 months, 18 months probably, okay? So for example, the one cause that got me to where I am now was quitting my apprenticeship and starting my own business. So there was one little action I took, nearly 8 years ago now, 7 years ago. And that action has compounded over time and got to the point where I'm now making $10 million a year. Just one little action, butterfly effect style, one small thing. But I'm now making $10 million a year. And the good news is I can remember, what made that happen. But a lot of people, they don't remember the things that got them to where they want to be. And this gets them into trouble. So I know that right now this might not make complete sense to you. And this might seem really weird. And you might be thinking, well, how the hell, why is this going to happen? It will become clear in a second, I promise. So look, here's how effect works over time, okay? So this is obviously an exponential diagram. You should kind of be familiar with this at least somewhat. It disappears everywhere in life. So we have effect on this axis and time on this axis. So we have the cause here, which is something happening, okay? Like me quitting my apprenticeship or you starting this program. And then we have the effect. So the effect isn't that big for a long time. Like, this is snowball down the hill stuff. Like, that snowball's not going to be very big at the beginning. It's going to take a long, 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 long time. 80% of this time-based diagram is just very slow growth, painful slow growth, excruciating growth. And then suddenly, bang, out of nowhere, we hit this point of critical mass. A feedback loop kicks in, which I'll explain later, and we have this wild effect. And so we know that causes take a lot of time to affect. This is called latency, okay? It's delay. Causes take a lot of time to do this. Like this program, you're not going to see great results. It's like, I'm a month into doing it and it's not really working. Like, this is what happens with these people who either give up or they switch to like drop shipping or OnlyFans management agencies, God forbid. It's up to you what you do, but swiftly moving on. Like, people that move on to like, oh, I'm going to start an Amazon FBA business, or I'm going to start like a video editing, I'm going to do this, or I want to like get into sales or whatever. I don't know. Like, people switch and people change, and really what they're doing is they're giving up. And what they're doing is they're giving up during this point here because they think that it's not working. Because the cause is just taking a lot of time to build momentum to go whoosh. And 99% of people, they give up before this little thing happens because they didn't have the patience, the foresight, or the wisdom to understand that the cause just needs a little bit of time to cook. And sometimes that little bit of time can be many months or many years. Like I've said, like, you're not going to see 10K a month next month. I mean, some of you will. Like, the odd person will just come through and break the paradigm and just crush it. But for most of you, it's going to take like a good year or two of consistent, painful work, building, and then something will click, and you'll hit a point of critical mass, like a certain client or a certain milestone, and then bang, it'll fly up. Now, why the hell are we talking about memory then, if it's about effect? Well, let's plot memory over time. So on this axis we have memory, on this axis we have time, and then we have the cause, and then we have forget. So we've got cause and effect. We've also got cause and forget. And so what this means is that in the in the short term, like in the immediate short term, your memory is really good and your recall is very high. But human memory is pretty terrible in the long term. As time elapses, we tend to forget things. And if you don't believe me, what were you doing when you were 7 on the 18th of June? I don't know. Like, what was the first name of your maths teacher in school, in primary school, or elementary school? Because you would know it. Like, someone would have, said like, Helen, can you pass me the binders? But you can't remember, right? Maybe you can, maybe you can. But this is an example, right? What did you eat for dinner 3 Wednesdays ago? Once again, you probably don't remember, okay? And it's cause and forget. And so what happens is our memory gets exponentially worse over time. And so, today you learn this stuff in the Imperium Academy. And tomorrow you're going to remember it real damn well. Maybe for the next week or two, couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, you're going to remember it. It's going to be fresh in your mind, and you'll be remembering it, and everything will be good, and you'll be acting it out, and you'll be getting success and getting what you want. But then pretty damn quickly, out of nowhere, like whoosh, you forget it. Like, just bang, gone, forgotten. And then, by the time you get here, you've completely forgotten it. Like, think about this for a second, man. Like, woman, person, like everything you've ever learned, you've forgotten 99.99999% of it. Because to remember everything would be absolutely insane. You'd be like, to consciously be able to recall every single moment of your life would be, I don't know, it's not really possible. I mean, maybe it is, I don't know, but that just doesn't make sense, right? So what you need to learn to do in life is find the things that you need to remember that are really damn important and just never forget them, never let go of them. Like your girlfriend's birthday, for example. It's a pretty big one. Don't you dare forget that. Trust me, I've done it before. It's not good. It doesn't end well, okay? So anyway, memory gets worse with time. I could probably explain to my ex-girlfriend, including the name now, it's X, right? I could explain to my ex-girlfriend about how memory works exponentially over time, but I don't think she'd be that interested to my excuses. But anyway, so memory gets worse with time and effect gets better with time. So, Charlie, what the hell? Why do I care, right? Well, now we can see a problem. Because if we plot these two things together, we can see a problem emerge. So on this axis, we have memory and obviously effect. Memory is represented by the blue line, effect is represented by the red line. And for those of you that have some intelligence in between your ears, which most of you do, I think, and will, you should be able to pretty immediately understand what this graph means and why it's a problem. Okay? What this means is that, so you do something. You start a business, or you do something with the anticipation of making something happen in the future. And you do it, and it starts to curve up, and you start to see the effect you want, and then bang, suddenly you're here. But at the start, you remember what you were doing, but then after a while, you forget what you did. And so, this is why people get confused in their life. Your life right now is the sum aggregate of every decision you've ever made. Life to you seems chaotic and out of control. You're like, oh, why do I have these problems, and curse this damn universe, and screw you, God, life sucks, or I don't know why I am where I am. But all that's happened is you've just forgotten what you did. So let me explain with an example. So today, let's say you make 200 cold calls. In 5 months' time, so you call 200 random clients to try and get them as clients. And then in 5 months' time, some random dude emails you out of nowhere asking you to sign up as a client. And you being you forget that this is a guy you cold called. You don't remember his email, you don't remember his name, obviously, because it was 5 months ago and you made 200 of them on that day. And so this guy emails you and you attribute this to luck, or worse, you attribute it to something else you did, thus forgetting what brought you the success in the first place. So when we do things that get us what we want, when by the time we've got what we wanted, we forget what we did. And so we tend to not repeat what got us what we wanted because we've forgotten that it got us that in the first place. And the same thing is true with bad things that happen to you, okay? So let's say right now you're overweight. Well, let's for example, let's say that you're in a really bad spot with a relationship, okay? And this is like an exponential effect. So in the beginning, your relationship was kind of sucky. It wasn't that bad, but it was just getting gradually worse. And then whoosh, exponentially, your relationship just suddenly got really bad in the course of a month, right? Well, something happened years ago or months ago in a relationship that started off this chain of events to go exponential. And so you're here for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Not in the woo-wah, live, laugh, love, maternal saying that girls use and some guys use to justify why things happen to them. Things happen for a reason because of cause and effect. And so if you're in a terrible place in your relationship right now, it's because of something that happened, something you did, or something they did, or something that happened that you didn't address. But you're now in this position where you're living this effect, but you can't. Remember what the hell you did wrong, or what they did wrong, or what happened that you didn't, resolve, right? So I want to set your expectations. This program might take a good year or two before you start seeing real results. And the thing is if you don't remember to go back through the foundations of the mindset training, when you start seeing the results, you're going to have forgotten why you got them in the first place. And the real results, like getting to 7 figures, becoming a millionaire, it's going to take 5 to 7 years, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before you become a millionaire with this stuff. And I can tell you now that this training program, if you see it through and you're consistent, will be the first action that creates the exponential effect of you becoming a millionaire. But because you becoming a millionaire isn't going to happen for goddamn 7 years, by the time you get there, you'll have completely, well, maybe you won't have, you shouldn't have, because I'm telling you not to forget this, but by the time you get there, you'll have forgotten, it was this information that got you there. And then, you need to remember. So the best, most successful people, they remember what causes create the effect that they have, what they wanted. And so it's very imperative you remember this, because this is how we get into trouble as humans, is we do things today, and, they compound over time, and then we move into the future, through time, to this dimension of time, and then we have a certain outcome, whether good or bad, and we have no idea where it came from, because we forgot what the hell we did to get it in the first place. Okay? Memory gets worse gradually, memory gets exponentially worse over time, and effects get exponentially better, or, increase over time. So if you do something now, you remember what it is now, you'll be fresh in your memory. But this is why people give up, right? Because, let's say that you're starting your consulting business. And let's say that up to here represents the first 6 months before, let's say a couple of months before you get your first client. You're going to start to make a little bit of progress in your consulting business, just a tiny bit, small bit of progress. You're going to get to here, you're going to be it's not working for me. I've been in the same niche for 4 months and I haven't got a client yet. Or, I've been doing this for 6 months, I've only got 2 clients, I'm only making $3 grand a month. I thought I was going to be doing 10K a month by now. And then you're just not giving it the time to create the effect.
it's not working for me. Like I've been in the same niche for 4 months and I haven't got a client yet, or I've been doing this for 6 months, I've only got 2 clients, I'm only making like $3,000 a month. I thought I was gonna be doing $10K a month by now. And then you're just not giving it the time to create the effect. And what's worse is that if it does start to work really quickly, is you're gonna forget why. So you have to remember this graph, okay? So fast results with this program are possible, and you should gun for fast results, but they should not be expected. If you expect to become wildly successful in the next few months, or by June, when it's April, you set yourself up for failure and it does not work. So a lot of people do this where they'll come into a program like this, and they'll say, oh, I want to be making $10K a month by, and then they'll pick a date that's like 2 or 3 months away. If that's you, I don't want to call you an idiot, because I know you just want the best thing for yourself, but you're being an idiot, okay? You should gun for fast results, and you should want to try and get results quickly, but you want to stop trying to do it in the next month or 2 months, because it's just not going to happen, man, because everything happens like this. Okay, it's going to take it's like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 7 months, 8 months, bang, 1 year, suddenly I'm making multi 6 figures. Wait, why is that happening? I can't remember. Oh yeah, it was the foundations and the mindset training. If you want to know what the biggest thing is with this, it's going to be the foundations training this week, and then the mindset training. So week 1 and week 2, and probably week 3 as well with the expertise training. This whole program, do not make the mistake of thinking this is a watch and done thing, especially the mindset training. The mindset training that I used to do when I was becoming successful at the very beginning, I revisit still every 3 months. And I'm not joking. It's like 20 hours of training and books and stuff I reread continuously. One thing I used to work on my mindset is Discourses by Epictetus. It's a book by a Stoic philosopher, transcribed by a historian called Arian. And I read that book once every 6 months, and I have done for the last probably 10 years now. Because, God, I do not want to forget it. I would rather learn the right thing and not forget it than try and learn a bunch of new stuff. Once you have what you need, which is what this program is, you don't need to learn more stuff. Learning is procrastination a lot of the time, okay? Don't get me wrong, you always want to be learning, you want to be finding new things, but this program gives you everything. So stop trying to learn all this crazy stuff. Stop reading 50 books and listening to 20 podcasts. Just find the right stuff and just remember it. And that's how I've always operated. Throughout my business career, I've had one mentor, one single point of knowledge. And that mentor's programs and resources, they haven't been updated for years now. And I go back to them and I rewatch them and I remember them, and obviously I can translate it to you guys. So this is with the mindset training. So what's going to happen is, and I can predict this very well, and then I'll move on, I promise, because I'm rambling on about this, but it's very important. You're going to go through the foundational modules. You're going to go through the mindset training. That's going to give you a massive heap of motivation. You're going to have a huge wave of discipline, a huge heap of motivation. You're going to start becoming an expert. You're going to start reaching out to clients, doing sales calls, and maybe signing a couple of clients. Then what's going to start to happen is, over time, you're going to kind of fall off a little bit and falter. And that's because you're going to have forgotten the mindset training. The mindset training is the catalyst for you to become successful, because it's going to give you that massive spike of motivation and that massive spike of, I can do this, that encouragement, right? And you need to go back to the mindset training, which is the week 2 training, and probably these videos as well, every 3 months. Promise me, every 3 months, until it's drilled into you, until you no longer taper off, you have to go back and rewatch all this stuff, okay? And the mindset training's in the next week, and the self-transcendence mindset training, week 2. So the chances are, is you've tried things before to become successful and make money online. So maybe this isn't your first rodeo. Maybe you've tried something else before Imperium Academy. And the chances are is that it didn't work. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And you're going to be telling yourself things like, oh, it didn't work for me. Or that niche didn't work. Or that business didn't work. Oh, maybe you've tried dropshipping before, right? Or maybe you've tried any of the other online business models and it didn't work. And so, you're like, oh, it didn't work for me. That niche doesn't work. Or that business just sucks, doesn't work. Well, here's some harsh truth. First of all, it didn't work for you. You are the problem. Telling me that it didn't work, people say this, where well, I've tried this business model and it doesn't work. I'm like, why doesn't it work? They're like, well, I didn't get results. It's like, well, somebody else got results. So it's a you problem, right? The second thing is, it didn't work in the ridiculously short time period you gave it. Oh, the restaurant niche, it just sucks, it doesn't work. Well, how long were you in the restaurant niche for? I tried it for 3 months. Dude, try it for a year. Because this is the thing. It's it takes time. The first 3 months, you're not going to see anything. The first 6 months, nothing. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll be, crazy about it and you'll get, it's possible. We've had people in Easy Grow go from 0 to 50K a month in 3 months, but most of you it won't. And then also, you just didn't give it the time it needed to create the effect. You put a cause into motion and you cut it off before it could create the effect. You heathen. Give it time, okay? So you need to be reminded, just want to format this properly. So you need to be reminded way more than you need to be taught, okay? Your life is the sum of every decision and action you've ever made or taken, okay? But up until now, you didn't realize because you've just forgotten what you did. And the lesson here is to stick to it, okay? This is why I'm telling you this, is I'm imploring you to stick to this thing. Stick to the training, stick to the business model, stick to the niche that you pick, stick to the problem you try and solve, etc. You must give these variables and decisions time. It only works with time. The real issue that you're all going to have is you're all impatient as fuck. You're all on short form content, you're all addicted to junk food, you're addicted to gaming and pornography and, self-improvement as well as another addiction, whether you like it or not. It's a good one, I suppose. But chances are you have some weird behaviors and addictions that have wired your brain for instant gratification. And the definition of business is delayed gratification. Right now, your brain expects everything you do to provide immediate dopaminergic reward instantaneously. And if you're the kind of person that's been playing video games, or if you're the kind of person that's been watching short form content, or eating junk food, or playing, just doing stupid stuff,
Like your brain, it can't tell the difference between business and a video game, or it can't tell the difference between business and TikTok. It's a universal comprehension mechanism, which means that it will expect immediate instantaneous reward from everything you do. And that's fine, but you just need to be aware of it. Like, first of all, cut those behaviors out, man. But like, it's so hard to stick to things that aren't giving you immediate dopaminergic reward, because you're used to getting that everywhere. So this is why these behaviors are so damaging, and they really hurt you and your business success, because they stop you from sticking to things. And it's no wonder why. Like, let's say you spent the last, like, I don't know, like, let's say that right now you're 20 years old, and let's say that you got a gaming computer and a phone when you were 14. You've spent the last 6 years conditioning your brain to instant gratification and immediate reward. And what that means is that everything you do, you expect it to happen right now. And so, you pick a niche and you pick a problem, and then you get to work, and then 2 months elapses and you haven't got a client yet, and there's problems and it's painful, and you're like, oh, this sucks, I'm going to switch. And you go and pick something else, and then you do this, and then 2 months elapses, and then it's not working, and all you guys are doing is just hopping between business models, niches, and problems, and you're not giving the universe the time it needs to compound the effect that you want. Like, you're putting the cause into motion by picking and deciding and getting to work. But every time you switch niche, every time you switch business model, every time you change the problem you're trying to solve, you reset the cause back to zero. And this is why no one is successful in this day and age, because we've wired our brains to instant, immediate dopaminergic gratification, and we cannot comprehend that it doesn't work like that in business. Okay? Really, really, really important. So I want to give you a couple of action items here, okay? So what I want you to do right now, I'm just going to put this up. What I want you to do right now is a couple of things. First of all, I want you to schedule in your calendar, so if you haven't got a calendar, you should get one, Google Calendar or something like that. Schedule a rewatch of the Foundations Week and the Mindset Week 3 months from now, and have that schedule reoccur every 3 months until you hit your goal. This is honestly, like, because I'm giving you what you need, and I'm going to continue to give you what you need. But if you forget it, it doesn't matter. The only way you're going to stop forgetting it, the only way I'm going to stop you from forgetting it, is by you rewatching it over and over again. And so what I want you to do now is this. Schedule it, okay? I promise you, if you do not do this, if you do not schedule this in and actually do it, because I'm telling you to do something here, you need to do it. If you don't do this, then you will forget what you learn. It's inevitable. Like, every piece of information that enters your mind and your memory has what scientists would call a half-life, which means it degrades over time. And if you don't top it up and remember it until it becomes part of you and your identity, then you're done for. And if you forget what you learn, then you're going to quit, and you're going to switch, and you're going to make this fatal mistake. Right now, this makes sense to you. Right now, you get it. You see it clearly, and you know I'm not going to make this mistake. I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to do what Charlie says. But remember, like, this is information, and right now, it's very strong in your memory. 6 months from now, you'll have forgotten it, okay? And when you come back to watch these videos every 3 months, it will completely perplex you as to how much you've forgotten and how much you had to remember. And I still do this with certain videos from Sam, my mentor. I'll still go back and watch old videos that I forgot, and I'm like, shit, how did I forget this? I've been watching this video every 3 months for like 7 years now, and I still forget it, So the second action item is to print this off and pin it up above your workspace and do not forget it. So what I've done here is create a little screenshot that says remember to remember. Now, there's one thing to remember, it's to remember, okay? So this is available in the resources section to download. If you can't see it there, obviously it's on the PDF. It'll be available in the resources section as well, which is obviously 6-Figure Fusion. Take a screenshot, download this, whatever, and then just print it off in color if you can. If not, don't worry. Or if you haven't got a printer, then put this on your desktop background, okay? Like, put it on your computer background and never forget this. Please. I know I've just spent the last, like, I don't know, God knows how many minutes rambling about the same thing over and over again. It's for a reason, all right? So don't put these on a to-do list and tell yourself you did them later. Don't be an idiot, right? Don't go, oh yeah, I'll print this off in a minute and then I'll schedule this later, because you won't, all right? So yeah, if you like, pause the video right now. If you haven't got a printer, then put this thing on your desktop background. Maybe do both. Probably do both. And if you haven't got a calendar, then go and create one, Google Calendar, and put in an event every 3 months, and schedule it out for like a whole day to rewatch week 1 and week 2 of the Imperium Academy. And I know you haven't even watched week 2 yet, but I know that when you do, like, that will change your life. But you have to remember, like, this is the quote, and then I'll move on, I promise. Information can only change your life for as long as you remember it. Okay? So that's that. So, okay, now that we've moved on from that ramble, exponential distribution. Why are some people extremely rich, but others extremely poor? Why does the top 1% of people own 50% of wealth in the world? Why do the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? Like, you've heard this quote before, right? Like, the rich get richer. You've heard the top 1%, they own half the world. Well, why? Why is the distribution of everything so unfair and biased towards a small group? Like, and more importantly, what can we do about it? Because if we know that the top 1% owns, 50% of the wealth in the world, like, how do we join them? And I can tell you, being in this is pretty damn cool, So let's talk about it. Why is it the case that some sports people are Olympic gold medalists, but others are just normal amateurs? Like, the difference between, like, Michael Jordan and you, like, let's say that you've been playing basketball for a year, and you're all right at basketball, but then you take Michael Jordan, like, in his heyday, like, the difference is like night and day. It's like you're not even a basketball player anymore. Like, why is it that some artists are world class while others can't make a living? Why is it that some people are billionaires but other people are thousands of dollars in debt? Why do some consultants get incredible results but others mediocre? Like, why does this happen? In other words, why are some people great and others just average, good or bad? Well, if you want to become great and you want to become wildly rich and successful, then we need to kind of answer this question. Because if you don't know what makes great, then you're either going to be average, good or bad. And good isn't even that good. It's just, you're going to, like most people think that, like, good is like 100 grand a year. Like, that's considered a very, very good salary for most people. By the way, I apologize if you can hear my squeaky chair squeaking in the background. But anyway, moving on. So people think that 100 grand a year is good. And, like, sure, it is compared to most people. But, like, I mean, I've made like 100 grand a day before, and, like, it's possible. I can tell you that. So why would you want to make 100 grand a month, 100 grand a year, when you could make 100 grand a month or 100 grand a day? Like, there's a big difference between great and good. And maybe you're happy with 100 grand a year. That's absolutely fine. Like, if that's what your goal is, and which it probably is right now, like, it's a lot of money, and you can live a very, very happy life with that. But
There's some people that make like 100 grand a minute. Like I heard this statistic once that Bill Gates, if he dropped $1,000 on the floor, he wouldn't bother to pick it up because in the time that he had like gone down to pick it up, he would have made that $1,000 back. And this is obviously when Microsoft's stock was soaring, right? But you get the point. So this is how it works. Like 80% of people, get 20% of the results, and 20% of people get 80% of the results. Like why the hell does this happen? People think this is unfair, and a lot of people, as I'm sure you've seen on social media these days, they complain about the mega rich owning everything. They're like, oh, tax the rich, and like the rich get richer, and like screw rich people, like Mr. Burns this and Mr. Burns that, from The Simpsons, this evil dude that's like really rich and stuff. Like a lot of people think that like financial and economic inequality is unfair, and I understand why. But to figure this out, we need to understand the 80-20 principle. This is also known as the Pareto principle. Now, the 80-20 principle is basically a universal phenomenon. You might have heard of it before. Brownian intelligence points of view have, but it's a universal intelligence. There we go. It's a universal phenomenon, not a universal intelligence, whereby 80% of effects come from 20% of the causes. So this is also known as the vital few effect. But basically, the Pareto principle creates an unequal relationship between inputs and outputs. And the explains why this happens, why things go exponential, and why life is so unfair, at least in the human eyes. So some examples. So 80% of wealth is owned by 20% of people, and 80% of customers buy from 20% of businesses. 80% of traffic can be found on 20% of the roads. 80% of food is produced by 20% of farmers. 80% of work is done by 20%. I mean, you get the point, right? News coverage. 80% of the news coverage is based on 20% of the world's events. 80% of financial hatred is attributed to 20% of the billionaires. There's a lot of billionaires in the world, but there's only like a select few of them that get any hatred, right? 80% of your wardrobe is worn 20% of the time. And then the same thing, like 80% of Earth's population lives in 20% of the countries. And 80% of the country's population lives in 20% of the states, in like the US, for example. And 80% of the population of the state will live in 20% of the cities inside the state, and so on, right? So this occurs everywhere. Wherever there's like an input and an output, or a cause and effect, like at least one that we can measure numerically, like for example, 80% of the traffic jams occur during 20% of the daytime. So, between like 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., which is when everyone's going to work, and between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. when everyone's leaving work. That's like, 2 hours a day. That's what, like 10, 20% of the day where 80 or 90% of the traffic's going to happen. And this occurs everywhere. And like, why does this happen? Why is cause and effect? Why is it unfair? Like, why do some people get filthy rich and other people are filthy poor? Like, why does that happen, right? Well, it happens in nature too. Because in the natural world, 80% of the fish live in 20% of the oceans, or at least species-wise. And in a forest, you'll find that 80% of the sunlight is absorbed by 20% of the plants, the ones that are at the top. And, in like a gorilla colony or any sort of, group species that lives together, 80% of the mates or the females will go to 20% of the males. And, not to be too controversial, but this is kind of the same thing as humans, right? 80% of the food is consumed by 20% of the species. 80% of health issues are experienced by 20% of the people. So I'm sure like maybe one person, and they just seem to be riddled with every single health issue under the sun. Like where there's one, there's many. Like what the hell's going on here? 80% of the rain in the world falls in 20% of the countries. And my favorite example, which was actually found by Pareto, the guy who came up with this theory, he had like some pea pods in his garden, and he found that 80% of the peas that he could yield from his garden came from 20% of the pods. And the other thing that he observed, the actual story, is he was doing like an analysis on the land ownership in Italy. He's Italian, and he found that like 20% of like people, like landlords, owned 80% of the land. And then he just started seeing this thing everywhere, and it really is everywhere. Like this is like a law, it's like a force of nature. Okay, like I can guarantee right now that you guys watching this program, 80% of the results we get in this program will come from 20% of the people who go through it. And let me just pray that you're one of those 20%, which I'm sure you will be. So complaining about the mega rich owning a disproportionate amount of wealth is like complaining that a certain ocean has more biodiversity than the rest. It's just nature. Okay, so I know people think it's unfair, and I know people get mad about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, but it's just the way the world works. Like it doesn't matter how offended you get or how badly your ego is damaged. Getting upset at this is just like getting upset at like a lion eating a gazelle. Like getting angry about that. Like, oh fuck that lion, like eating that. Like what did that gazelle do to that lion? Like it's just nature. It's just the way the world works. And you might not like it. Maybe you hate this premise, like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Maybe you think it's evil to accumulate money, and if you do, then you're in trouble because you're never going to make it, because behaving out of alignment with something you believe to be true is very tough. But maybe you think it's not fair. Maybe you think that people should be more equal and like money should be more distributed equally. And maybe you think that communism is a good idea. And I mean that's a whole rabbit hole we're not getting into because I'm not going there. But you get the point, right? It's nature. We are biological machines. Like we like to think that we're all developed and stuff as humans. But really, we're just an extension of nature. And our economic machine, which is basically the economy, is a manifestation of the natural world. Like the economy kind of works the same way that like a jungle does. Like you've got competition, you've got supply and demand. You've got scarce resources. You've got all sorts of things that you'd see in like a jungle or a forest or a certain microbiome. The same laws that govern that biome or that jungle or that environment naturally will seep over into the way the economy works and the way that we make money. So it's the same. So imagine complaining that 20% of countries get 80% of the rainfall. Like, oh, this rainfall system is corrupt, and the rainfall matrix is out to get us, and the rainfall system is rigged. I demand high rainfall countries move their borders so low rainfall countries get more rainfall. Like complaining about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Like it's the same thing. And I know that you can make the argument like, oh yeah, but there must be a way to fix it. It's like, yeah, sure, you and whose army?
what, Stalin's? That's not going to go very well. Millions and millions and millions of people are going to die. And that's what happened in communist Russia and Mao's China. Like, we've tried to level out in the 20th century, we've tried to level out financial equality, and it's resulted in the deaths of tens of millions of people. Because you can't fight nature. You just can't. Okay? Stupid. So when a phenomenon such as this, the 80-20 principle, is so common and apparent literally everywhere, it means that there must be a natural law somewhere to explain it. So there's a law, there's a rule, and if we can uncover this rule and understand it and line ourselves up with the way the natural world wants to manifest, then goddamn we can do some damage. We can really, achieve some success here. There's no getting angry at 80-20. You can't beat it. Like, don't waste your energy. Like, getting angry at the 80-20. If we can uncover this rule and understand it and line ourselves up with the way the natural world wants to manifest, then goddamn we can do some damage. We can really, achieve some success here. There's no point in getting angry at 80-20. You can't beat it. Like, don't waste your energy. Like, getting angry at the 80-20 principle is like getting angry at a rock. You're not going to change anything. Like, the rock doesn't care about you or your feelings. So, like, you can't, like, it's not going to change. Unless, sure, you can, like, throw it and try and break it and stuff, but besides the point. You can't beat 80-20. You can't beat it, nor can you demand the world change for you, but you can use it and join the winning side. So if you're the kind of person that has always complained about the rich getting richer, like, yeah, they do. And you can either be bitter about it and complain and do nothing, or you can just get rich. And then you can use that money you've made to give to charity and, help poor people. This is something I just do not understand with this argument. Like, the rich get richer, yes they do, so figure out how to get rich. And if you really care about poor people, get rich so you can help them. That's how you help them. Because any other way, it's not going to work because you're fighting actual law of nature. It's just like, it's the same thing as trying to fight natural selection. You can. Like, I want to stop evolution. I want to stop gravity. With time, this loop compounds and basically flywheels is another word for it, creating some truly extraordinary and unbelievable results. This is why life isn't fair, okay? This is why the rich get richer. It's just feedback loops. Because the more money you have, the more money you can make. And the more money that you can make, and that you do make, the more money you have, which means the more money you can make. And then it just cycles round and round. So let's go through some examples. So an example of a feedback loop would be let's say you go to a comedy club, and the comedian finishes their skit, and they finish their talk. And one person starts clapping. And then because one person starts clapping, someone else starts clapping. And then because someone else started clapping, somebody else starts clapping. And it loops around until everyone's clapping. And then everyone's clapping, and then someone sits down and stops clapping.
then somebody else next to them sits down and stops clapping. And then because that person sat down, somebody else does. And then because that person did again, somebody else does, and then bang. And then suddenly everyone stops clapping. And then the same thing is true with getting fit. So let's say you start working out. Well, the more you work out, the more you're going to want to eat clean, because otherwise it feels like a waste. And the more you eat clean, the more you're going to want to work out, because otherwise it feels like a waste. And so you work out and you eat clean, and because you're eating clean, you're working out more. And because you're working out more, you're eating cleaner. And then this thing just cycles. And the same thing is true with getting fat. So if you skip workouts, then you're more likely to eat bad, because you're like, well, I didn't go to the gym today, so what's the point in eating my 150 grams of protein? There's not much point. And then because you ate bad, you skip the next workout. And then because you skip the next workout, you eat bad again, and then it just flywheels and cycles and cycles and cycles. The same thing happened with COVID-19. So one person gets COVID, and then another person gets COVID because that person got COVID. And then because that person got COVID, another person gets it. And then it just cycles around into a vicious amplification loop. And this is how COVID just came out of nowhere, went bang, exponential. Started slow and bang. And the same thing is true with how COVID went away, or sort of how the infection rate died down, where basically we were like, okay, we'll do social distancing so this virus can't spread. So there was less contact, which meant less infections. And because there was less infections as a result of less contact, then we continued to social distance. And the more we continued to social distance, the less infections there were. And so the governments just continued to mandate, being locked in your house. I mean, I'm not getting into the political argument there, but they mandated the lockdowns and stuff, right? And the more they mandate the lockdowns, the less infections there were. And so the more the government locked us down, the less infections, until eventually, what happened? It apparently went away. And there was so little infections that we felt it was safe to go back outside and stuff. And it's up to you to form your political judgment on COVID. I couldn't really care less, to be honest, but you get the point, right? So things can spike up and then spike down. So positive feedback loops, also known as amplification mechanisms, they basically cause things to quickly exponentially spike and then quickly spike down just as fast as they spiked up. And it's kind of like this, right? So what happens is it's an exponential loop, right? So at the beginning it's really slow, and then it's because of all these things are feeding back on each other. At a certain point of critical mass, it just goes bang, it explodes. So one person starts clapping, second person starts clapping, then you've got 4 people clapping, and you've got 8, and you've got maybe you've got 10 people, and then you've got 15, and then because 15 people are clapping, suddenly 30 people start clapping, and then suddenly the whole room's clapping real quick, and then up here 100 people clapping. One person stops, and then suddenly 3 people stop, and then suddenly and then bang, 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 and it goes down, So nothing can grow exponentially forever. Even the universe itself, which is exponentially growing by the second, as per the theory, will eventually stop growing and contract and shrink. And it will shrink exponentially, right? And if you don't believe me, well, you can look into this, not to give you too much of an existential crisis, but the heat death of the universe, also known as the Big Chill, which I think is one of the coolest scientific theory names I've ever heard in my life. But the heat death of the universe is basically is a theory that explains that the universe is eventually going to expand so much that it won't be able to anymore because nothing can grow forever. It's kind of like an observable rule. Now, fortunately enough, we're not going to be around, and neither will any of our descendants for this, but it's true, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, the same is true with wealth, economic growth, countries, empires, companies, brands, etc. Everything that grows exponentially, with enough time applied, will contract and shrink just as fast as it grew. For example, the graphs below show the growth and decline of the Roman and British empires based on landmass or number of countries ruled. You'll find this phenomenon everywhere, right? So, for example, we've got the Roman Empire here, based on square kilometers or square miles of landmass. And we can see, minus 500, BC, and then the Republic sort of starts around here, for any of you familiar with the Roman Empire. And then, around the time of sort of Julius Caesar and Pompey and Augustus, we have this big old spike. And then, we get different emperors in, like Trajan or Hadrian or whatever. And, then Vespasian. And then suddenly, it kind of flattens off a little bit, and bang, we just see this really quick decline. So what went up really quickly comes down pretty much just as fast. And then the same thing is true with the British Empire. So the British Empire starts in 1600s, and it kind of grows and grows and grows and grows. And then we have around the time of the Napoleonic Wars, around here, and then there's a huge quick spike, all the way up into World War II, and then suddenly after World War II, maybe 20 years later, just bang, just straight down. What went up really quickly went down way faster. And this is feedback loops, right? So with the British Empire, for example, one colony rebels and gains their freedom from the British Empire, right? And then that rumor spreads to another colony, and then they rebel because another person rebelled, and it just gets out of control. Now, you might then ask, well, what's the point in even trying? But my point is that all of these graphs, it takes hundreds or thousands of years for anything to happen. So in your lifetime, you can build exponential wealth. That's fine. But your wealth is attached to an economic machine that in 500 years or 1,000 years or 200 years or whatever will very likely contract and fall apart. Like the United States of America is another example. Like the growth of the United States of America and the growth of the economy, it doesn't last forever. Like if the universe is going to die, then so will the USA, and so will the UK, and so will all of these, Russia, China, all these countries eventually die. Now, fortunately enough, we don't have to concern ourselves with any of this because it's all, the USA is only 200 years old or whatever. So it's going to be fine. Don't worry, I don't want to give you too much of a crisis here. Let's just stay focused on making money. But I'm making this point that what goes up really quickly usually comes down really quickly. And the same thing is true with people that suddenly win the lottery. You see people who have no experience with financial management, and they just suddenly become multi-millionaires overnight, and then they spend that money usually just as quickly as they earned it, or made it. They didn't really earn anything, to be honest. And that's how it happens. So let me give you a few more examples of positive feedback loops or amplification. Because this is why, this is why this thing happens. This is why we have this big, whoosh all of a sudden. And this is why, 20% of the people in the world own 80% of the wealth. It's why like 80% of sunlight is absorbed by 20% of the trees. Because if one tree starts absorbing just a little bit of sunlight, it's going to grow just a little bit bigger. And if it grows just a little bit bigger, it's going to absorb just a little bit more sunlight. And if it absorbs a little bit more sunlight, it's just going to grow a little bit bigger. And you just compound that over time, you've got a pretty damn big tree taking up a lot of damn sunlight. It's all about these feedback loops. And the same thing is true with money, and I'm going to give you some more examples here. So this is a huge one, and we're going to talk about this in the mindset module. If you believe you are successful, or you believe you can become successful, then you're going to become successful. Like, think about this for a second. Like, if you really believe in your heart of hearts this is going to work, then you're going to start creating the effect. Like, you're going to start building the foundations. You're going to start getting clients. You're going to start doing outreach and making money. And then when you become successful and you start actually making some money, then you're going to believe even more that you are successful. And the more you believe you are successful, the more successful you're going to become. And it's just going to go whoosh. And then you're going to have one of these big exponential things. But it's going to take a year or two before that happens. And then, people buying a stock on the stock market. So let's take the Tesla stock, for example. If people buy it, then the price goes up. And if the price goes up, more people buy it. And then it goes woo, 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 and it feeds around itself. And then out of nowhere, people start selling the stock. And then, the price goes down and everyone starts selling it. And it goes up and down and up and down. And another example is the Imperium Academy community. So people are in the community posting their wins. And you should do this. If you get a win, if you sign your first client or make some money, like post your wins in the community, right? Just specifically business wins. No one wants to see your shirtless body transformation, trust me. As great as it may be, we're here to talk business, right? Not self-improvement per se. Anyway, so people who post their wins in the group. So some of you are going to do what I asked you to, and 20% will actually get results. And you're going to post pictures of your results and your clients and your bank accounts and money in the group. And the more people that post wins in the group, the harder the rest of everybody will work. And the harder everybody else works, the more results they're going to get, and the more results they're going to put in the group. And the more results that go in the group, the harder everybody works. And it just boom, boom. This thing just goes round and round and round. And you build this amazing flywheel machine for client results that encourages people to do the work. This is why I'm just consistently stressing to you. Remember this stuff and do the work. Remember this stuff and do the work. Information can only change your life if you remember it. And it will only change your life if you apply it. Do the work, do the work, do the work, right? Talking of which, funny enough, doing the work, getting results. So you're going to do the work, get results. The more results you get, the more you're going to want to work. The more you're going to want to work, the more you work, the more results you get. And then it just goes round and round. Same thing is true like going to a party. So if you're at a party and then people start leaving, then suddenly more people start leaving, and then before you know it, no one's at your party. Definitely didn't happen to me when I was a kid. I'm joking. Positive feedback. So panic and people running. So one person starts panicking and sprinting away from something, and then suddenly somebody else starts doing the same thing because we are by nature, social proof animals, which means we just copy people without thinking because it's the safer option, right? Like if you're in a mall and someone just starts sprinting away from something, you're probably going to run away without thinking too much about it because it's biologically sound. There's no real argument against it because it's like, well, that person's running away from something. Chances are there's something to run away from, and I'd rather take the risk of looking like an idiot than fuck around and find out. But anyway, the more people that are running, the more panic there is. And the more panic there is, the more people that run until everyone's running. And then, then you've got like a stampede. And this is how like mobs form. This is how protests form. This is how anything, this is how things just go rapidly exponential. It's how empires are built. It's how countries grow. It's how businesses grow. It's how you can track like Facebook's users over time. Like just flywheel, flywheel, flywheel. So some real-time examples for you here. And let me just do this quickly. So some real-time examples for you here on YouTube. So this is a Google Earth time lapse. It's going to show you some of the biggest cities on Earth that have sort of been developed in like the last, 30 years, give or take, 40 years, 50 years, whatever. So 35 years, the urban population's grown by 2.3 billion people. So funny enough, this is where I am right now with Dubai. So we're in Dubai, and you can see 1984, there's 300,000 people in Dubai, okay? 35 years ago. Well, actually, this is 38 years ago, right? But anyway, so look, we can see, like, by 1990, so like 4 years later, a little bit of progress. And then, a couple years after that, a little bit more progress. And then a little bit more progress, a little bit more. And like 10 years later, a little bit more, a little bit. And then suddenly, like, out of nowhere, this thing just goes bang, like the Palm Jumeirah appears, which is where I live, Palm Jebel Ali appears, which is on the left, Marina appears, the islands appear, and this thing becomes like a metropolis, just like real quick. You can sort of see. And another example I'll give you here is the Pearl River Delta in China. So in 1984, this thing has got like, nearly 10 million people. And now this is a place in China that you've probably never heard of. It's got like 60 million people. Like the population of the UK fits into this thing. And so let's have a look at this. 1984, it looks a bit developed, right? There's a lot of farmland and stuff. There's a good river, good water source, good place for civilization to grow. And then just out of nowhere, slowly, like 10 years, looks kind of similar, not all that different, bit of growth. And then like bang, look at this. It just goes ballistic. Sorry, 81 million people. How's that for exponential growth? Nearly 10xing a population. And then another example. This is Las Vegas in Nevada, right in America. We start with 530,000 people. Little town, kind of. Well, it's more than a town really, but 35 years. Look at this thing, just growing. And we've gone from we've 4x, 5x the population. Another example for you, some bacterial growth. So what you can see here, a little bit into the time lapse, there's some little specks of bacteria here. So it's linear. There's not much bacteria on this thing. The growth is slow, but as more bacteria grows, then more bacteria grows. Because the way bacteria grows is by duplicating itself, right? So it just goes and goes and goes, and then suddenly out of nowhere, bang! Like it's just like a colony. It just takes over the whole thing, and there's just loads of bacteria. There's a story about an ancient king, and I don't think it's a true story. It's definitely not a true story. There's a kid, and this kid does the king a favor. I'm just gonna make it up. Let's say the kid protects the queen from an assassin. Okay, and the kid goes to the king. And the king's obviously really grateful for this kid. Queen's grateful for the kid. Queen's alive, king's happy. The kid goes to the king's court. And the king says to the kid, whatever can I do to repay you? Anything that is within my kingdom I will give you. Tell me what you want. The kid's very smart. And what he does is he says to the king, what I would like is for you to give me 2 pieces of grain, or 2 pieces of gold. I want 2 pieces of gold. And what I want you to do for every single square on the chessboard, or on a chessboard, I want you to double how much you gave me before. And the king's like, done, granted. And as soon as that's done, the kid is now the king. Now why? Well, think about it. We go from 2 to 4, it's just 4 pieces of gold, not that deep. Then we go from 4 to 8, still not that deep. Then 8 to 16, and 16 to 32. Like, suddenly that gets a little bit out of hand. We go from 16 to 32, and then we go from 32 to 64, and then from 64 to 128, and we're not even done with the back row of the chessboard yet. I can't remember how many squares are on a chessboard. Maybe it's like 64, but just Google right now, like 2 to the power of 64. Like that's like the whole universe. It's like these exponents, man, these power laws, like they're dangerous, and they are viciously, willing to amplify anything you give them. So that's the story about the kid and the king, and how he takes over the kingdom, and that king was not a very smart king. The clearest example I can give you of feedback loops. How do you turn $1,000 into $120,000 without doing any work, with no effort, without doing anything except one thing? It's pretty simple. This here is a compound interest calculator. So if we take $1,000, okay, let's say you've got $1,000 right now, and let's say that we take a 60-year time horizon with an estimated interest rate of 7%. So what this means is that every year you're going to get a 7% return on your initial investment, which is kind of typical because that's like the S&P 500 average return. You can do a 7% return pretty easily. Now we're not going to have a tax or anything. It's going to compound annually. So it's just $1,000, right? Just $1,000. We're putting $1,000 in, it's 7% return, 60 years, no big deal, right? Well, if we calculate what happens, in 60 years you'll have $57,000. And if you hold it for 61 years, it goes from 57 to 62. Then if we do just an extra 9 years, suddenly you've got $113,000. Like, and let's give another example. Let's say that you put in $5,000 right now, and let's say every single month you're willing to put in $100. Not much, just you're going to put $100 in, every year. And let's say you give it 65 years, compounding it. Let's just say an 8% return, just 8%, an extra percent, right? Calculate. Well, that's how $5,000 with a little bit of a $100 a month investment, that becomes $3 million over time. And we can see how this just compounds. And this is happening because of compound interest, which is basically a flywheel, which means that when you put $1 in and you get a small return on that dollar, then it loops back around and creates more of the money, and then it loops back around again and creates more. So if we put just $1 in, no investment additionally, we give that dollar 100 years, it's 7% return. What do we get? Yeah, so $1 becomes $867. So I know you might not. Well, I'd love for you to be here in 100 years, but let's be honest, right? This is a pretty interesting thought experiment, and this shows the power of compound interest, and this shows the power of feedback loops. You can turn $1 into $900 if you're just willing to wait. Now, obviously, you're not going to wait 100 years, but you get the point, right? So this is what I mean when I say things take time. Okay, it is actually possible to create these ridiculous exponential effects if you just stick to them. So if you put this $1,000 in, and it's like, it's so funny. Like let me just explain this again because this reiterates my point. So let's say you put $10,000 in, okay, and you're going to allow it to compound for 70 years with an interest rate of 7%, right? Well, okay, in 70 years, if you put 10K in, you'd have $1.1 million. This is real math, right? Let's say that you put this $10,000 in, and you get 7 years in, or you get 6 years in to your investment, and you're like, I'm not a millionaire yet. I invested 5 years ago. This isn't working, and then you just take the money out. You're an idiot. Like this is just what people do. Like they don't give it enough time to get to like in this point where it just goes whoosh and just flies up. So changing your niche or changing the problem you solve people or changing to a different business model after 3 or 4 months of trying consulting is exactly the same as putting $10,000 in the stock market in the S&P 500 or putting $10,000 in a savings account with a low interest rate and removing it after a year because you're not a millionaire yet. It's exactly the same premise, okay? So don't do it. Now, we have positive feedback loops, which is obviously these things that create exponential results. I'm also going to make you aware of this, although they're not that important to understanding how to get exponential effect. We also have negative feedback loops. So positive feedback loops, they exist to amplify a cause away from a base. So like we're really trying to see some massive growth. But negative feedback loops attempt to regulate and control systems towards a base. So negative feedback loops exist to maintain the status quo. So for example, like a negative feedback loop could be a air conditioning unit in your house. So let's say you've got a room and you set the air conditioning to 20 degrees Celsius. If the room gets too hot, then the air conditioning will cool down the air and bring it down, but then it will overshoot. And if it gets too cold, then it will increase the heat and then it will balance out and maintain this degree of 20 degrees. This is exactly how rocket-guided missile systems work as well in the military. Is they have a target and then the military will shoot the sort of autonomous guided rocket, and the rocket will adjust its course accordingly in the air in accordance to the coordinates it's trying to hit and the coordinates of where it is now. And so this is how you get these sort of AI rockets, which are kind of terrifying, that can use negative feedback to achieve a point of stasis or maintenance to hit a target. Same thing is true for systems in the body. So we have homeostasis, which is you might be familiar with from biology class, where you have your brain as a sensor. If you get too cold, then you shiver, and that brings your temperature back up to 37 degrees internally, which is where enzymes are catalyzed and we remain healthy and alive. 37.5, I think it is, I can't remember. But then if we get too hot, if you sit in a sauna, for example, and that's the stimulus, then you'll start to sweat and you'll start to pant to try and cool yourself down. And that's what dogs are doing when they're panting, is they're trying to cool themselves down, right? This happens with all of your neurochemistry as well. This happens with your hunger hormones, it happens with your sleep hormones, it happens with your digestion, it happens with your lungs. Like if you right now breathe really quickly and try and hyperventilate, then what your body's going to try and do is try and slow your breathing down so you don't die from oxygen poisoning. Well, I don't know if that's even a thing, to be honest, but you get the point. So if a system's in decline, like for example the Roman Empire in 135 AD, and there is a negative sentiment attached to decline, like if something bad is happening, and you perceive it to be like a bad thing, that does not mean it's a negative feedback loop, okay? Negative in terms of feedback loop and negative in terms of sentiment are two very different words, okay? If things are exponential, it's always positive. So if you're seeing an exponential curve up or down, then what you're observing is a positive feedback loop, typically. Now you could say it's a negative feedback loop because it's like a maintenance thing and it kicks in, but you kind of get the point, right? So the point I'm making here is that positive or negative in terms of feedback denote the direction instead of an emotional sentiment. So positive feedback loops, we're moving away from something. Negative feedback loops, we're moving towards something, okay? just because the Roman Empire declined, it was a positive feedback loop within it, not a negative one. So the sentiment is detached from the meaning of the feedback loop. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, don't worry about it, but it doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to just tell you. So now let's talk about second order consequences. So now that you're starting to build your understanding of this wonderful world and how exponential things occur and why things happen, let's discuss this pretty crazy thing that, like, if you get this, man, like, my goodness, does life suddenly start, this thing, like, if you can learn from this video, and if you can learn this knowledge and remember this knowledge and learn to think in second order consequences, you will beat a lot of people in life. You'll become very successful. So let's dive into it. So actions have consequences. We know this to be true. Cause, effect. Action, consequence, cause, effect. Have you heard this before? You've probably heard this phrase before, where, like, when you're a kid, you'll do something bad, and then your mum or your dad will be like, oh, Timmy, actions have consequences. And that's basically you being grounded, right? Well, if you run someone over, then you're going to prison. If you cut your leg, then you're going to bleed. If you make cold calls, you're going to make sales. Action, consequence, cause, effect. But here's the real kicker that no one understands. Actions have consequences, but consequences have consequences. And if that's not a pin drop moment for you, you need to pay attention. Because consequences have consequences to infinity. This is something that you need. I know it might seem like you're a bit like, what the hell, I don't get it, but it will become clear when I give you an example. So these consequences are called second order consequences. And second order consequences, this is how billionaires think. This is how, like, really intelligent genius, idiosyncrasy in business or science or anywhere, these guys, they think second order consequences. So every individual action you take, everything you do, everything, with no exception, no matter what, no matter how trivial, will set off a chain reaction of consequences through time into the future that will dictate how your life ends up. Now, this is also known as the butterfly effect, or the law of sensitive dependence on initial conditions. And what it means is that you doing one thing right now, if we apply enough time to that action and the consequences of that action, you can end up with a completely crazy thing. Now, the butterfly effect is called the butterfly effect because the theory is that if a butterfly flaps its wings in one corner of the world, then on the other side of the world, it can cause like a tornado or something like that. And biologically, that might not be accurate, but again, second order consequences, it can actually make sense. So actions set trajectories. So a trajectory is basically a line of direction of which someone is on. Okay? So for example, if you are leaving your house to drive to your grandmother's, then you are on a trajectory to go and see your grandmother. If you are in university and you want to become a doctor, then you are on a trajectory towards becoming a doctor. A trajectory is essentially a journey, and your actions set your journeys. Trajectories have sentiment, and they are either negative or positive. So a trajectory is positive if it helps you achieve progress towards your goal. So trajectories manifest as consequences, okay? And for a trajectory to exist, there has to be time, there has to be an initial action and a consequence. And so what happens is the initial action is taken, i.e. calling your grandmother to go and to see if she's free. And then the consequences that manifest from that initial action are find keys, open door, get in car, turn car on, reverse out drive, drive, stop at traffic light, swear at someone who just cut me off, continue driving. Like, all life is a chain of events, and one event creates the next one. If you're at a traffic light and you run the red and then someone crashes into you, like, that happened because something else happened. It's cause and effect, right? So consequences along a positive trajectory make you progress from your baseline towards your goal, and consequences along a negative trajectory make you regress from your baseline away from your goal. And your baseline is basically your current situation, and your goal is what you want. So 10K a month, millionaire, healthy, good family, whatever, financial freedom. And this is how it looks, right? So trajectories, like, obviously your visit to your grandmother might not become exponential, right? That's not my point. But when it comes to business or health or family or relationships or financial freedom, we'll talk about finance specifically, a trajectory can be in everything, but like, it can really be exponential. So we have the initial action here represented by these little circles. And a positive trajectory is where we take an action in the moment that triggers a chain of events that become exponential and helps achieve our goal. And it doesn't always have to be exponential, right? You can have a linear, more straight line here. But on the flip side, we have one action that's bad, and that will trigger a chain of events that will send us down to hell. And really, like, I can't stress enough, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your actions. And the quality of your actions is determined by whether or not you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. It's very simple to have a good, happy life. Just don't do stupid shit and do smart shit. Like, it's really not that tricky when you think about it. We all overcomplicate it, but it's really just this. And so this is how consequences work. And the key is in the word. So when you think about a consequence, like, it's a sequence. It's a sequence of events that happen as a result of the ones previous to them happening. And so what we can observe here is what we would call second order consequences in real time. So we have an initial action which triggers a first order consequence or an effect. And that effect becomes the cause to create a second effect. And then that second order consequence creates a third order consequence. And then a fourth order consequence creates a fifth order consequence, which creates the sixth and seventh all the way to X. And this is to infinity. This is to the end of the universe. This is until the Big Bang comes to a close with the heat death of the universe. And what happens here is, like, something happens, something else happens because it happened, and then this cause and effect chain just rumbles down. And this is why this module is called six-figure fusion. It's because this is how nuclear reactions happen. And I'm not actually that well versed in nuclear physics, but my understanding of chain reactions and nuclear fusion reactions is when, like, one thing causes another thing, which causes another thing, another thing, another thing, until it just goes absolutely exponential. And so what we can observe here as well with these arrows denoted is feedback loops. So some consequences will feed back on previous consequences and amplify the severity of the trajectory, speeding it up and amplifying it, and then recreating consequences. So, if I do the initial action, right, and that creates the first order consequence, and that creates the second and the fourth, then by the time I get to the fourth order consequence, this consequence might feed back and reinforce the first order consequence, which creates more of this, which creates more of this, and more of this, and more of this, to create more of this, and this is how your life gets really good really quickly or really bad really quickly. And same thing here. So we've got negative and we've got positive. So negative consequences and negative trajectories, they take you away from your goal. This is where you descend into chaos, the abyss, and hell. This is how people end up homeless. This is how people end up in crippling debt. And ultimately, this is how people end up doing terrible things like committing suicide and self-harm. Like, when your life is so bad that you feel that you have to physically hurt yourself to justify your damn existence to the world, it's the product of this, right? And I don't want to reduce someone's existential, terrible suffering down to a simple little diagram with a few boxes. That's not what I'm trying to do here. Trying to make a point. This is how it happens. And on the flip side, like if you have a fantastic life, like if you live where you want, you have financial freedom, you've got the wife you want, the kids you want, the boyfriend you want, girlfriend you want, whatever, you know, like you've got an audience, people like you, you're doing meaningful work. Like I love my life, for example. I'm really happy with where I am, and I have a very good, meaningful life, and I'm on a meaningful trajectory towards more. And that's just happening because I've done enough of these good initial actions, and I've avoided the bad ones. And I've just given it like 7-8 years. It's amazing what can happen with time. And the exciting thing is I'm still just getting started. Like with my income and stuff, like I'm making like $10 million a year, $20 million a year nearly. And like, you know, well, 10 million right now, but we're pretty much on the cusp of getting to 20 pretty soon. And like, I'm just getting started. Like, I've no doubt that with enough time elapses, I'll be a billionaire. Like I will, because like if you take, you know, if you do this interesting thing here, right? I'm not going to tell you specifically what my net worth is because that's personal, but you know, let's say that we take, you know, well, I'm making $10 million a year right now, right? So let's just say that, for argument's sake, that's all profit, which is not, by the way, but let's just say that, you know, I've got $10 million in cash, and I'm not confirming or denying that's how much I have. I'm giving you an example, right? So let's say we take $10 million, which I think is 10 million, like this. Is that definitely, hang on, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so we take $10 million, and so I'm now 27, right? So let's say that I want to see where I'm at when I'm like, I don't know, 87, right? So another, it's been a long video, guys. let's do 60 years, right? We're 87. And let's say I've got an estimated interest rate of 7.5% because I've got some financial intelligence. And let's say that I continue contributing. Let's just say with a random number in a bank account right now, $10 million. Like, okay, calculate. Well, by the time I'm 87, I'll be worth $766 million. And this assumes that I don't make any more. Now, once again, I'm not saying this is how much money I've got. It might be more, it might be less. It's up to you to decide, right? Well, I'd be a little bit disappointed if it was less, but you get the point, right? Anyway, moving on from me being a dick. So, this is going to happen. Like, if I just take this money and achieve this return and wait for this long, I'll be worth $760 million. This assumes I make no more money, right? This assumes that I don't make any more money from this business. No one else buys my thing ever. Like, let's say that I make one $10,000 a month sale to contribute to this, and I calculate that. Like, now I'm worth another 100 million. So anyway, you get the point. Works pretty well, and that's that. So this is how you can visualize these second order consequences, right? So if we take our baseline here, which is sort of where we are right now, then we have our initial actions, okay? And the initial action will create the first order consequence, which will create the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, and the eighth. And it might not be until consequence 6 that things start to really tick up. We have time here, and the key is that you let these consequences unfold and you give them enough time. So if you're on a positive trajectory by starting a business or something, then the key is just don't quit and don't switch. Just keep doing the initial action, keep working, give it time, and do not quit. And on the flip side, if you're going down a bad trajectory and you feel like your life's not on track and you're going down a bad path, then hopefully you're not too far gone, because this is when, like down here, like this sort of exponential curve, this is when people get like depression that is so bad that they feel like they have to end their lives, or this is when like you're really in like hell, and you can climb out here. Like, trust me, you can. I've seen people do it, and it's the most miraculous, wonderful thing ever. But you want to try and avoid having to do that. So if you're on this negative trajectory and you think, God damn, like I don't like where I'm headed, just know that if you don't stop doing all this crap before it's too late, there's going to be a tipping point in a cliff that your life falls off, and it will happen faster than you can possibly expect. It will come out of nowhere and it will slap you in the face, and it's not a good thing. It really isn't. I've seen it happen to a lot of people. Now we can visualize this with something pretty insane called a consequence map. So consequences have consequences. Actions have consequences. Consequences have consequences. And what we can do is we can actually map the consequences of terrible, stupid behaviors and decisions. So here's a consequence map I made for one bad initial action of getting an Xbox for Christmas. So you can replace getting an Xbox with downloading TikTok or watching pornography or trying drugs for the first time or even ordering a burger. And you can see how messy this thing gets. So consequences, they're not just linear chains where like one cause will create one effect. Like what usually happens is one cause will create lots of effects, and those lots of effects will fan out into lots more effects. And it's kind of like an infection. Like this thing just spreads. So let's explore this, shall we? So let's say that you get an Xbox gifted to you for Christmas. Okay, this is the initial. It might not even be your fault. You might not even gone to buy the damn thing. Maybe your auntie was just like, "Hey Timmy, here's an Xbox for you," right? Well, your auntie's just done you dirty as far as I'm concerned. Although bless her, she had your best interest at heart. But okay, so let's talk about this. You get your Xbox for Christmas, and this is basically the initial action. This is the original cause. Now, what happens is, okay, well, you start playing the Xbox. You're like, I'm just going to play the Xbox an hour a day on the weekends. Then you start playing every day because like no one can just do an hour a day of Xbox. Trust me, even I've tried. It doesn't really work. So you start playing every day, and then because you're playing every day, you play for more hours and you play more, and then you actually start getting good at the game. And then what happens is, because you're good at the game, you start frying your dopamine receptors, and the only way you can feel stimulation is with the game. And then you've wired your brain for instant gratification. So like, now you're just like completely, like all you want to do is play this game and get immediate dopamine. And then the thing is now you're struggling to work. Because you're so used to getting dopamine from your game, like you can't sit down and focus and get enough dopamine. And because you've wired your brain for instant gratification, well, now you're going to start snacking whilst you're playing. And then you're going to buy these stupid G Fuel gamer drinks that, are going to ruin your gut health and adrenal glands. Then you're going to get anxiety and brain fog. Then because of this, you're going to stop exercising, then you're going to gain weight. And then you're going to get fat, And then what's also going to happen here is, if you start playing every day, you're going to play for more hours, and then you're going to spend less time with your girlfriend. She's going to get mad at you, and then she's going to start disturbing you during your working hours because she knows it's easier to distract you from your work than from your Xbox because you're glued to the thing. And then because she starts disturbing you and she's angry at you, you start playing more Xbox to forget that she's angry at you, and then she leaves you, and then you enter hell because it's not good. And then because you get good at the game, you start making friends that are also good at the game, and then you start hanging out with these people, and then you start spending money on skins and items to pathetically compete with them for digital status, and then you're poor because you started buying pixels, and then you go through hell. Or another thing that happens is like what we got here. So you get good at the game, and then what starts happening is you start staying up late because you're on this game late. Like, your willpower's at its weakest past 11 p.m, man. So you start staying up late, playing late. Then you destroy your circadian rhythm, which is your sleeping pattern. And then you start doing dumb shit because you're up at 2 a.m. chasing dopamine. It's like in between your games, you start watching porn or doing stupid stuff. And then you get new addictions. And then what that does is it fries your dopamine receptors even more, which means that you have to start playing more, which means you have to start staying up later, which means you get more addicted. And this thing just goes around. And then also what happens is because you get good at the game, you get a sense of progress in the game. Right? And then you have a lack of desire for sense of progress in life. Like, if you're getting good at a game, like, this is what happens to people who are gaming. Like, your brain has a process, like it has a progress striving mechanism. And if you're getting your progress striving mechanism, if that thing's being satisfied by a video game, you're not going to seek it in business. Like, I don't get this. People that play Sims, for example, like, you're building this dream digital life. Build your own bloody life, right? Anyway, you can kind of get passionate about this because this one got me. This one had me for a long time. Like, all of these consequences you're seeing on the screen, with a few exceptions, some of the obvious ones that didn't happen, are real. These happened to me. These literally happened to me. I'm not even joking to you. I map this out from personal experience, right? So sense of progress in the game. And then you lack desire for a sense of progress in your life because you're getting everything you need from the game. So then you stop working and your business fails and you have to get a job you hate. And all of this leads to, entering hell with enough time applied because now you're poor because you spent all your money on the game. Now you've lost your girlfriend because she doesn't like you because you're playing this game. You've also gained weight because of this Xbox. And now you have to get a job you hate because your auntie bought you an Xbox for Christmas. So you're in hell. And then you blame the world and become bitter and resentful. Then you bring everybody else around you down and you become this miserable sack of existence that no one wants to be around, so you become isolated and lonely. Then you lose friends and family members and then you get depressed. And then all roads lead to Rome. Like, you do something heinous and terrible, right? This is how your life works. And like, I'm hoping this is just your like, holy shit. Like, I'm hoping that's the reaction you've just had here. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I had this thing for a while. This was when I was younger. I was growing up like 15, 16, before I started business, like 17 when I really kicked off. This was my life. Like, things really suck. I had this like depression, pain, and suffering. Like, I never had like terrible suicidal thoughts or anything, but you know, apply enough time to something like that, and that's where you can end up, man. And so like, this all happened because I bought a gaming computer when I was like 13. And that happened because of some of the stuff when I don't even know. It all comes back, like, from the second you're born, like, these things just unfold. Like, you being born, you being inflicted on the world is going to unload a chain of events that can either be very miserable or very happy. And so, you know, this is just one example. You could replace this, and this is, by the way, this is by no means an extensive list of all the consequences. There are thousands that I haven't thought to name here, but I want to give you an example, right? And they all feed back on each other as well. So, like, for example, destroy circadian rhythm and staying up late. Well, now this is going to make my girlfriend even more mad, because now I'm not even going to bed with her, like, and I'm getting to bed like 4 a.m. and she's asleep and going to work, which means that I play more, and then my circadian rhythm gets worse. Like, it just cycles. All of these things feed back on each other, and they create this absolute web of chaos and mess that you need to learn to clean up. All because Auntie Joan bought Timmy an Xbox for Christmas. So this happens on the flip side, though, because on a more positive note, here's a consequence map for signing up for a gym. Now, you could map the same thing out for doing this program or buying EasyGrow or any example, you know, that I would deem positive. And these should be connected by arrows, so I apologize they're not. But so you sign up for a gym, all right? You're out of shape because, you know, you've been on this Xbox train for the last 7 years and now you're depressed and you want to fix it and you've hit rock bottom at the point of critical mass. So, you know, you sign up for a gym and you take your sorry ass into the gym and you start working out 2 days a week. And then you feel good, like just a little bit, a tiny bit good. You start making marginal progress. So you start training more. And then like, you know, you feel even better, so you train more, and then that feeds back around. And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna get a coach. You get a coach. And you know, your coach fixes your nutrition, which means that you feel good and make more progress, which means that you train more, get more coaching and fix your nutrition more, and it feeds back around. Then you have a big leap of progress, this big exponential leap, you know, 6 months later, you've gone from, you know, you saw a picture of yourself when you were at a wedding 6 months ago, and now you've lost like, you know, 10 kilos and you look incredible, right? That's fantastic. So then, like, you've had this big leap of progress. Now you understand delayed gratification. You get smarter. You start cleaning up bad habits in your life, right? And this thing then feeds into, you know, you becoming more disciplined or whatever, right? And then another example. So you have a big leap of progress here because of these things. And then your friend, your best friend, sees this progress and they join the gym. And then you train with your friend. And then you become accountable, which means you train more and fix your nutrition even more. And then it all feeds back around and more of your friends join the gym. And then you spend more time together improving. And then maybe after 6 months of training with this person, you start a business with them. And then maybe you make money and go on to be a millionaire with them. You know? Like, the same thing is true here, right? So maybe you fix your nutrition after this chain, then you'll get health improves, mental health improves, confidence improves, then you become more socially popular, right? Then you start speaking to more people, you get better sales skills, you get more clients, you become a millionaire. Or maybe your confidence improves as a result of these things. And the second order consequence of that improving is you actually approach a girl for once in your life, and then you date that girl, and then she becomes your girlfriend, then she becomes your wife, then you have 4 kids and 9 grandkids. All because you went to the gym. Like, obviously, the approaching a girl happened because the confidence improved, but the confidence only improved because the mental health improved, because the gut health improved, because you fixed nutrition, because you got a coach, trained more, felt good, worked out, and signed up for a gym. All roads lead to Rome. Everything happens for a reason, and what you want to learn to do is try and isolate the thing at the bottom of it. Like, prime example for you. 7 years ago, I received a Facebook message on Facebook Messenger from a man called Baudouin Borgans. He's my business partner now, and we've made tens of millions of dollars together. You know, we make $10 million a year, as I've said. Maybe I said that too much at this point, but like, he's like a brother to me now. We live together. He's like my best friend. He's like brother till I die. Brother from another mother, as far as I'm concerned. To use a less cringy phrase would be more appropriate. But Bo messaged me on Facebook 7 years ago, before I was anything, before really he was anything. And he just messaged me trying to sell me some funnels, some service delivery agency funnels. And I was like, I bought them. Best decision I ever made, right? You know, I bought them, and then I added Bo to a group chat with some other agency owners, and then I started talking to Bo, and then I started doing sales calls for him, and he started doing service delivery for me, and apply 7 years to the equation, and now we've got like the biggest info business in the space, all because of one Facebook message. And I mean, hopefully I live long enough to see, you know, 90, 100 years old. That'd be great, right? And I can't wait to see the $7 million consequence of Bo messaging me on Facebook. You know, this is how the world works. Okay. Now what we have is feeder actions. So most consequence trajectories have a feeder action. So the feeder action is the thing you do daily to sort of feed all of this stuff. So second order consequence maps, like consequence maps, these second order consequences, they're like a hungry beast. They need to be fed. And the thing that feeds them is your daily habits, okay? And these are called feeder actions. So for example, playing the Xbox, going to the gym, outreach in the business, etc. So feeder actions are actions that, in our case as humans, manifest physically as behaviors that we complete routinely, also known as habits, okay? So think about it. If you, like, the feeder action for this one is basically start playing every day, like, or more hours, more play. Like actually playing the Xbox is the feeder action. If you stop playing every day, then suddenly you cut off the oxygen for all of these second order consequences. And they'll still exist for some time, but like suddenly what will start happening? Let's say you stop playing every day, so you stop the habit. Well then you lose your gaming friends, good fucking riddance, right? They're gone. Also you're going to bed on time now because you haven't anything to do in the evening, you're just going to sleep instead. If you catch it early enough, you can actually start spending time with your girlfriend again and cut this off. And then also you're going to start wanting to work more. Like, all of these consequences, they come from one specific behavior that you just routinely repeat every single day. And the thing is you live this life and you live all these nasty consequences without attributing them to the damn thing that you're doing. Like, most people are doing these feeder actions and feeding their entire misery map of misery without even realizing it. You have to isolate these things, right? Same thing for this. Like, the feeder action for all of these positive benefits is training more and going to the gym, you know, and showing up. So, you know, if you want to stop a negative trajectory, you know, if you want to, you know, if you're on this thing here, you know, and you're downsloping and you want to stop it, then just stop doing the thing that feeds it. Stop the initial action. The initial action is the cause, like the Xbox being bought or signing up for the gym membership. But usually the second or third order consequence of the initial action is the thing that feeds it. You've, like, for example, like the initial action of becoming a heroin addict would be trying heroin for the first time or hanging out with someone that does heroin regularly. Right? That's the initial action. You can't really repeat that thing because it's a one-time action. But eventually, if you're shooting up heroin, like you're doing that every day, then that's feeding into your miserable existence, right? And that's a bad thing. So if you want to accelerate a positive trajectory, you increase the feeder action. So the feeder action for the gym example is training more, and the feeder action for the negative trajectory is more hours, more play. So avoid the bad initial actions and encourage the good ones. It's like snakes and ladders, just avoid the damn snakes. So let me give you a couple of examples, right? So really in life, it's more about avoiding this than it is trying to seek this. Like your success and the money you make and the quality of your life will come way more from trying to get rid of bad things than it will trying to add good things. Because it doesn't matter how much you try and start a business. Like if you're playing the Xbox 8 hours a day, like there's no point, right? Well, there's a point. There's always a point to trying to improve, but the easiest way to you improve by subtracting things. But that's a story for another day. So a few examples. So recently I was at dinner in Dubai. Okay, no, I wasn't in Dubai. I was in London. And I met a friend of a friend who was really fun to be around. Like one of those proper, charismatic people, amazing people who you want to hang around. Like they were fantastic. I loved them to bits. But I found out after a few hours this person was heavily into drugs. Right? So I was like, oh, here's a great person who I really like, who I want to be friends with. And then I found out they were into drugs. And I saw this drug thing, like, okay, person into drugs coming into contact with me. Knowing where that heads, without judging them, I cut them off and never spoke to them again. Just ruthlessly didn't text them back. My friend who wanted to rearrange the dinner was like, oh, I'll bring this person. I was like, please don't. They were like, why? I was like, I don't know the drug thing. And they were like, that's rude, you're judging them for being mean. I was like, no, I'm just protecting my consequence maps. Because like I know my personality, like I've never done drugs before. I've never done like hardcore class A, class B drug, anything like that. And I never will. I'll never touch anything like cocaine or heroin because like I just know where that sort of thing leads. Like this person was fun. They would have been a great friend. They would have been really fun. They made me laugh and like I was making them laugh and great. But as soon as I found out that they were like cocaine addict, gone out of my life. Goodbye. No empathy, no sympathy, gone. Because map that thing out. If you start hanging out with someone every day who takes cocaine, like you're going to be tempted to do cocaine. You're probably going to end up doing it. You apply like 3 years of inadvertent social pressure to your life and drugs, like you're going to cave. And if not, like, you're going to, something bad's going to happen. Like, you're going to get stopped by the police and they're going to have it in their pocket and it's in your car. So now you're a drug dealer and you go to prison. Like, it's just not fucking worth it. Same thing if you've got a friend that drinks a lot. Same thing if you've got friends that, like, all they do is play video games. Like, people are a huge one and you should be willing to cut them loose. Unless they're like, close family or like a really best friend that you really want to fix or like your brother or sister, your mum, your dad. With those exceptions, I am absolutely ruthless with who I let into my life. Another example, which is quite funny actually. So I moved into this house in Dubai about a year ago, bang on a year ago now, in August last year. And my house manager, the guy who was estate agent house manager, sort of, the person who was helping us with the house deal, they offered like a little favour, as you do when you spend a stupid amount of money on houses and rent stuff. They offered to set up smart TVs in our bedrooms. So me and Bo moved to his house. And the house manager was like, hey, just as a favour to all tenants, we set up these smart TVs in the bedrooms. Like, we haven't done it yet since you moved in because we didn't know which rooms you were going to take and stuff, so let us know. They were like, look, we'll set them up. You've got all the streaming services. It's all free. Like, it's all paid for. You've got Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Amazon Video, Netflix, like YouTube. Everything's on there. As soon as I heard that, like, I was like, that sounds great. But then I thought about it and I was like, nope. Because I mapped out the consequence trajectory and quickly shut it down. So, like, just think about it for a second. Like, like having a television in my bedroom that will show me any movie, or because it literally had everything on it, like everything. Having a TV in my room that will show me any movie or show or video I ever want to see ever. That's not a good thing. Because then I'm going to start watching the damn thing. And I said to this guy, I was like, oh, I don't want it. He was like, but it's free. I was like, it's not free. The cost is me watching it. Like, if I have that in my room, that could cost me like $10 million a year. Like I start Game of Thrones, and then suddenly I'm like waking up in the morning and turning the TV on. Or, and then it's just like these things you just got to watch out for, man. And this guy was adamant. He was like, but everyone who moves into these houses we do it for everyone. It's free. I was like, it's not free. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, it doesn't cost me any money, but it can cost me my whole business. Like, you just don't know. Like, me getting a smart TV in my bedroom, like, that could lead to me, like, quite literally killing myself. And I know how ridiculous that sounds. But it could result, okay, let's not use killing myself, it's quite a terrible example, but having a TV in my room could result in the failure of my business. I don't know. It's better to not, because this is what happens. Like, would you think of this? Like, when your auntie buys you an Xbox for Christmas, like, all of this stuff is going to manifest itself over like a 5 or 7 year time horizon. It might not. I'm sure some of you have an Xbox and have a perfectly fine life, but you have to just watch this thing like a hawk. Like, I mapped it out, I was like, TV in room, right, what's the first order consequence of that? Okay, well, I'm going to watch the damn thing. Then I'm watching it led down. Then I'm watching it at night, which means I'm going to go to bed later. That means I'm going to get less sleep. That means that I'm probably going to spend less time in the gym in the morning. You just map it and you'll see, So the fastest way to know of an action is going to get you on a positive or negative trajectory is how good it feels in the moment. So the question then becomes like, well, Charlie, how do I know if an action is good or bad? Like, how do I know what is a snake and what is a ladder? Well, it's really about how it makes you feel in the moment. So if doing the action brings you pleasure now and pain later, then it's bad, right? So anything that gives you instant gratification is bad. And if the action brings you pain now and pleasure later, it's good, and that's delayed gratification. So the more it sucks, the better it is for you usually. So if you have the choice today between watching Six Figure Fusion and sitting and watching, some random Twitch streamer disrespect women for 3 hours, like one of those, like I'm not gonna say that's a good thing, but like one of those things you might want, you might, like, let's just say stream playing video games, right? To use a less political example. So there's 2 things you could do right now. You could go and watch a streamer play Minecraft, or you could sit down for a 3-hour painful business video. Like, well, the 3-hour business video that you're watching right now, or however long this thing is, I don't know, kind of sucks to watch right now because you got to pay attention and write stuff down. And like, you could be watching a streamer play Minecraft, and that sounds really fun right now. But the thing is with the streamer play Minecraft is it brings you pleasure now, and it feels good now, but it brings you a little bit of pain later because you go to bed that night like, shit, I wish I'd watched that video. God damn, why am I such an idiot? And then you do it all again the next day, right? So wherever you can in life, you're looking for delayed gratification. Every day you wake up with the choice to take instant gratification actions or delayed gratification actions. Like, what are you going to have for lunch? What are you going to have for dinner? Are you going to have like some, Deliveroo, instant food, like
junk foody thing, or you're going to eat something clean and healthy that you know is good for you. Because the junk food will feel great now, but at 4 in the morning it probably won't feel too good. When you've eaten something bad that doesn't agree with you because there's so much grease and crap in it. But if you eat like a salad now, it kind of sucks. Just a salad. You're like, oh, I don't really want this. But then like at 4 a.m. you're not suffering, right? So with your consulting business, you have 4 main feeder actions that delay gratification. So remember, this is all about isolating these feeder actions. These are things that we can do every single day, like habits that we can perform, behaviors that we can manifest using our body to feed the consequences we want to feed. Because this map, this is a hungry beast. The second you stop training, all of these things start falling apart. Like, you need to consistently maintain these things. The key is really consistency, right? So the main feeder action, if you're wondering to go from 0 to 10K a month, the main feeder for this is cold outreach. So cold emails, cold calls, cold DMs. Like outreach is a term used to describe you messaging, calling, or emailing people in your niche to see if they have the problem that you have a solution for. So outreach is basically you trying to get clients, right? That's the action. That is the most important feeder action you can do to get to 10K a month, or even 100K a month, okay? Sometimes it can also be making content as well, but we need to get customers, so that's the feeder action. So once you're set up, once you've got your foundations, your mindset, your expertise, your sales skills and stuff, like you should be doing outreach all day, every day. Like if you're not doing outreach all day, every day, then you're not feeding your trajectory properly. So starting a business is like, you can map out the consequences of that. And it's for as long as you feed the business, and what I mean by feeding the business is consistently doing outreach, which means getting more interested prospects just consistently through that machine. The more you feed that thing, you'll become just so successful. It's ridiculous. The other thing that you can do, or the other things you can do to feed the business, are remind yourself of the foundations. So rewatching these videos, working on your mindset and rewatching the mindset videos, closing calls and getting better at your expertise. These are really good feeder actions. Remember this from the last video? Only 4 things that matter: solid foundations and mindset, booking sales appointments, closing sales appointments, and delivering value and getting better at what you do. These are the feeder actions of the business. If you're not working one of these 4 things, you're wasting your time. And a quote from Jordan Peterson for you. Someone asked him some really deep question, and he gave his answer. I thought it was fantastic. And I instantly understood it because I understand second order consequences. He said, our actions echo into eternity. And what that means is that what you do now, in this very moment in time, is like what the decisions you make, the actions you take, they are going to, in a very small way, very, very small way, determine the entire course of the future of the universe. And this is where you can derive meaning from, man, woman, person, whatever you are, robot. Like, knowing this, you can just make your little corner of reality better. I mean, that's worth doing. So an action item for you. So what I want you to do now, once again, is pause this and do this. Find your worst feeder action that you have right now. God knows you've got one. You've got to have it. Probably 5, But find your worst one, the worst feeder action. Like, remember, your life is an aggregate of everything you've ever done. You've got this consequence map that you're living, and it's being fed by a couple of specific behaviors, right? Like, eating junk food or playing video games or, all these just basic bad habits that you have, right?
There's 1,000.
And I want you to basically make a decision to remove it. And if that sounds too difficult, then just try and not do it tomorrow. Because you've probably got these behaviors that you've done every day since you can remember. Let's just try and not do them tomorrow. That's a good place to start, right? That's your first action item. Not too tricky. Just, if there's something bad that you do every day, that you shouldn't do, that maps out all these terrible consequences, that if you don't stop doing, is going to send you down to the pits of hell with enough time. Let's just try and not do it tomorrow. That's action item number 1, okay? Make a decision to remove it, but more importantly, just don't do it tomorrow, okay? So stickability and consistency. So staying on this topic, and by the way, please do this now. Just pause the video, write down to yourself, or tell yourself, we're going to remove this, but let's just, in the future, we're going to remove it completely. But for now, let's just not do it tomorrow, all right? Or for 2 days, whatever you can manage. Don't try and cut it off completely, because you're not there yet, mate. You haven't got the... willpower, discipline, or energy to just miraculously cut terrible habits out of your life. Let's just start with 1 day or 1 morning, for God's sake, right? So stickability and consistency. If you want to progress along a positive trajectory towards your goal, then you need to isolate the feeder action, which is a physical behavior that can be habitualized by routine. Then you need to stubbornly repeat this feeder action daily. So
All success is isolating feeder actions and consistently repeating them, or consistently not repeating them if it's bad. Sometimes it can take months of repeating this feeder action to trigger the second order consequence and the chain reaction. So in physics, right, let's use nuclear fusion as an example, okay? So if I explain this to you, so nuclear fusion is basically when I don't really know how it works, I can't really give you like a high level fancy explanation. So what I've done actually whilst thinking about it is I pulled up this diagram for you. So this is what nuclear fission or nuclear fusion looks like. It might be fission, it might be fusion, but you get the point. So this is how consequence maps work, right? So this is how your life looks, is you start with one cause and this thing fans out in infinite directions. This is how nuclear energy can be, can become a chain reaction, so to speak, right? And so, if you're trying to create these effects down here, what has to happen is something has to happen at the beginning, and it has to happen consistently and repeatedly. So, for example, this example here, we're combining these two things together, which is the thesis and the antithesis. And sometimes you have to combine them together a lot. Like you've got to do this consistently for months before you start achieving the chain reaction you want to achieve, like this, right? And so the point I'm making here is, don't think that just by making one cold call you're suddenly going to get a client. Like the universe is going to test you, and these feeder actions, it's kind of like getting like a chainsaw going. Like you've got to give that thing a few rips before it actually kicks off. You've got to give it a few reps. And so when you're trying to change your life and make progress and build a new consequence map for yourself, the first initial action, like for example, eating clean or, in this case, doing outreach to get customers, sometimes you've got to do it a lot. You've got to do it a lot. And then what will happen is you do it a lot, and then you'll get the consequence you want, which is getting a client, and then the chain reaction will start. Then it just gets easier and easier. And the more clients you get, the easier it gets, which means the more clients you get. And this is the feedback loop coming into play. So for example, right, it took me 3,500 cold calls to get my first client. And that's not a lie. It took me like 60 to 70 sales calls to get my first client, and it took me 3,500 cold calls to book 60 sales calls. I wasn't very good. Don't worry, it shouldn't take you, well, it might take you this many, I don't know, but I didn't really know what I was doing. But like once you get the first client, once you get that first client, that feeling, it's like the whole world opens up to you. Like that's the second order consequence that's now going to create the chain reaction that could make you a billionaire. It's just one person buying from you, right? It's like, holy shit, it works, It's like that scene from, if you've seen the movie from Castaway with Tom Hanks, where he creates fire. It's like, oh my God, fire. And really, like civilization is a second order consequence of fire, of us discovering fire. Like we discovered fire, and then, however many hundreds of thousands, or I don't know, millions of years later, whatever the hell it is, that's not millions, but, however many years later, now we've got MacBooks, and that's the second order consequence of discovering fire. But anyway, my point is to make fire, it might take you a couple of days of rubbing some sticks together, and don't be afraid to do months of work to see no result to feed the consequence map. Likewise, it might take 30 workouts before someone sees weight loss. It might take 2,000 cigarettes before someone gets lung cancer. Like if lung cancer was your goal, and you know that the feeder action to lung cancer is smoking 2,000 cigarettes, so smoking cigarettes, like you wouldn't smoke, okay, you obviously don't want lung cancer, no one does. But let's say you wanted to get lung cancer, right? Like you wouldn't just smoke like 10 cigarettes and be like, oh, where's my lung cancer? Oh, this doesn't work. Cigarettes don't work. I'm giving up. Like when you invert it against a negative consequence, it makes a lot of sense. But for some reason, people struggle with gauging the positive. And it's the same thing. Like let's say you want to find a wife, you might need to approach 1,000 women, depending on how much riz you have. Hopefully it's not 1,000, but you know what I mean. Like these feeder actions, man, you just got to keep on feeding. It's literally just like your body. Every day, wake up, you got to feed it. It's the same thing with success. You got to find the thing that feeds it. You got to habitualize it into a daily routine and just consistently never stop. And then eventually, what you can do is you can hire people to feed it for you. So I don't make cold calls anymore. Like when I had my agency doing 100K a month, I had people feeding it for me. Like I hired them, but you're not there yet. So you've probably heard the phrase consistency is the key to success. And you've probably never really understood why. Maybe like, yeah, I get it, consistency is important. But now that you know this, like using your understanding of time, feedback loops, and second order consequences and consequence maps, you should now understand why consistency is the key to success. And this should make it more justifiable. Everything I've just told you, everything, serves the purpose of you justifying consistency and something called stickability. That's the whole reason I've just spent 2.5 hours explaining all these abstractions to you is just so I can encourage you to be more consistent and more stickable. So the second lesser known key to success of your consulting business is what I call stickability. So stickability, kind of clues in the name, is basically how sticky you are to your foundations in the consulting business model. So in other words, can you stick to things without getting shiny object syndrome and hopping between business models, niches, and problems? Now, if you want to be successful and see this exponential loop, you've got to stick to it. You've got to be consistent with these three things. First of all, you must stick to the consulting business model. You must stick to the niche you pick, and you must stick to the problem you aim to solve for them. Once again, don't worry about, what if I pick the wrong niche or the wrong problem? Because we're going to talk about that in the niche and problem video. I'm going to make sure you don't pick the wrong niche or the wrong problem. Because the truth is that provided someone else has made the niche work, and that someone else has solved the problem, then success is possible and it can be done. All we have to do is iterate our way to success, which once again I will explain in a later video. Your job after picking is to stick. Okay? So I'm going to capitalize this, pick and stick. Okay? Pick and stick. That's all you've got to do is pick and stick. And like I can tell you that your brain's gonna go fucking crazy on you. Like, you're gonna get a couple months in, you're like, oh, this isn't working. This doesn't work for me. Like, consulting isn't for me, and this niche isn't like, it's not good, and the problem I just can't solve. Like, you're gonna attack, your stickability. But it's imperative that you stick. Because, remember, it's just having the patience to just sort of rev up that initial action and just consistently feed it and get that first consequence. And then the second, and third and fourth, and you're still not seeing even by maybe here we're at 15th consequence or 70th consequence, you're still not seeing what you want. But just keep on feeding it and just trust the process and trust that if you're in a niche that supports growth, solving a problem that is painful that you can create value through, with enough time and enough feeder actions, you will just flywheel. And then everyone will think that you got lucky. Oh man, that's literally how it goes as well. I had this where suddenly I went from making like $1 million a year to like $10 million a year, and everyone was like, what the hell? You got lucky, man. I was like, no, you just haven't seen the 6 years of work I put in to get to this point of exponentialism. So notice how the graph above shows very little progress for the first chunk of time. Then it curves up. Right? Every time you switch your business model, your niche or your problem, you reset your consequence trajectory back to zero. This is hugely important. So you're on a trajectory, a positive trajectory, and all you've got to do is stick to it and keep feeding the initial action, right? Just keep on pumping away, keep feeding that thing. If you switch to a different business model, if you switch to a different niche, or you switch the problem that you're helping that niche solve, you immediately reset yourself back to zero. Because think about it. Let's say that you're in the consulting business, you give it 5 months, you get one lousy client and you give up, and you switch to dropshipping. Well, you could have been 2 months away from getting 7 clients. But by switching to dropshipping, now you've got to go through the initial 5 months of suffering again to even get anywhere remotely near close to where you want to be. And then you're going to get 5 months into dropshipping, make a few lousy sales, and then quit and go and do Amazon FBA or something else. This is how people do it. It's just stupid. Same thing with your niche. You're in a niche, you pick it 4 months in, you haven't got a client yet. The niche just sucks. Like, instead of blaming the business model of the niche or the problem, blame yourself, because that's the truth. And you switch the niche, and then as soon as you switch the niche or the problem, you reset your consequence map back to 0, and you're back to square one. And all that progress you made, that you didn't, the effect you didn't really see, you're just blind to the effect, you've just gone back to 0. And now you've got to go through it all again, and it's impossible to achieve success without going through this. So don't be fooled into thinking that if you switch to something shinier, it's going to happen quickly, because it won't. So don't fucking do it. I know that I'm kind of being a little bit passionate with some of my words and the phrases and the choice of swear words I'm using here, but this is just so important. If I can just get you to do one thing, it's just stick to it, all right? Which is why I'm doing this. So some action item for you. Once again, do this now, okay? Don't put it off. Don't just watch this thing in I know some of you have. Some of you have watched this in 2 times speed with 100 tabs open. You're probably not even listening right now. Some of you are on your phones, like, I can't help you. You might as well just leave, right? But for those of you that are listening, that have been taking notes, that have been doing the action items, first of all, well fucking done. Congratulations. I'm proud of you and I'm happy that you're doing it. So keep it up, because you're doing very well so far, okay? So action item, write this down right now. Pen and paper. I promise to myself and Charlie that I will stick with this program and this training. I will stick to consulting, I will stick to the niche I pick, and I will stick to the problem I pick to solve. I understand that I have countless temptations to switch. I will have countless temptations to switch to a different business, niche or problem, and I will doubt all these along the way, but I won't listen to all this bullshit, and I will be a person with extremely high stickability and consistency. Okay? So I want you to write this down, and I know it seems trivial, you're just getting us to write stuff down, that's not really business, but I just want you to make this agreement with yourself. And if you're doing the action items and you're listening, like, dude, well done, man, woman, whoever you are, person, like, this is really good work. Like, you're unfolding some second order consequences, and I'm happy that you're doing it, and you should be really happy as well. And I know that you're not seeing any money in the bank yet. I know we're only 5 or 6 hours into these videos, but you're doing good so far, man. Okay, woman, person. So summary. So we talked about the consulting foundations, which we defined the 5 foundations of niche, problem, solution, result, and offer. We put those into a hypothesis and explored that. And then we actually, understood the consultant equation, how that thing works. Discussed knowledge, memory, and time, and how that thing happens where, remember to remember, basically. Like how, if you're not careful, like things are going to happen in your life and you're going to forget what made them happen. So if you don't like what you have now, then you can't remember what you did to do it, so you can't stop doing that. And if you have what you want, you can't remember what you did to get what you want, so you stop doing it and you don't have what you want in the future. So we talked about that, which is a bit of a complicated thing to wrap our heads around. Then we discussed exponential distribution, feedback loops, second order consequences, obviously the consequence maps, feeder actions, and then obviously last but not least, just maintaining that consistent, ruthless, dogged consistency over time, non-stop, sticking to it, being consistent, feeding the actions, trusting the process, and just biding your time and waiting. And if you've paid attention to this video and you actually do it, you're going to be way more successful than people that haven't. And I'm excited to see that in a year or two from now. So I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.